right. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the June 7th, 2017 Nashoba Regional School Committee regular meeting. This is our last regular meeting of the school year. We do have a workshop, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:01. Neil, for the folks around the table, Neil and Lynn are both coming, but they're going to be a little bit late for personal reasons, but not together. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is citizens' comments. Do we have citizens' comments? Okay, here we go. Anybody else have a citizen's comment? Okay, so what I'm going to ask both of you is to let me know which agenda item your citizen's comment references.
I just have a quick thank you.
Oh my gosh, hold that, please. Everyone, take a deep breath. Don't breathe, don't make a sound. Thank you, and we'll get to that. Do you have a comment?
Mine is similar to a thank you.
Holy cow! So that would, does it have, what does it have, what's the topic? I'm sorry, I'm on mic, you tell me.
Just some of the kindergarten hoopla.
Okay, so that, here's the good news.
It's not on the agenda.
Yes, it is.
Actually, it is.
It's classroom designation. So, before we get into the actual citizens' comment, as I do every meeting, I'm going to let you know what the policy is. So, policy KE and policy DEDH are the two policies that govern us with citizens' comments. The citizens' comments, okay, so it's your opportunity to share with us your input. It's not a back and forth discussion. We gotta, the policy stipulates there can't be any discussion about an individual, whether on the staff or actually even sitting at this table, or a child. And then 3 minutes, if you would keep your comments to 3 minutes. And please direct your comments to me. But don't be offended if we don't respond. It's because the point of this is to share your input with us. Okay, so please give us your name and the town that you're from.
All right. So I'm Laura Roberts from Bolton, and I just wanted to come because I know there's been a little bit of hoopla over kindergarten class size, kindergarten half-day program versus full-day program, and things like that. And I just I understand the administration and the school committee have sort of been playing catch up in a way this year. So while I feel like there was a lot of late notice on things that are happening with the kindergarten program, having met our teachers a week and a half ago, and then a change coming this week. But I do feel like the administration, our principal in Bolton here, have been very responsive to the parents, and so I wanted to thank them for being responsive to the parents' concerns over the issue, and that's really it. I appreciate that you're being responsive, and I do understand that probably some of this late notice on it is related to the scheduling and the other decisions that were being made. But thank you for being responsive.
Can I respond? Normally
Yes.
we don't. Normally we don't respond.
Well,
as
we
a
don't,
rule,
but you can.
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, we're not really supposed to, right? But I want to say thank you for that, because sometimes the jobs that we do, as you well know, are pretty thankless jobs, and so I'm ever so appreciative of getting a thank you. Now, the three principals are here tonight because this is our first chance to even put this before the school committee. So the school committee, for all intents and purposes, is not even aware of this. Now, I've communicated out to them the changes, but and you'll hear this tonight as the school committee, as the principals talk. This has been ongoing. This is not something that started like last week or 2 weeks ago. It wasn't in response to social media. It was none of that. This discussion has been ongoing since January and February, and we've been watching and watching and watching. And then, I was getting concerned because I saw some of the numbers coming in from the three communities, and I was like, you know what, we need to make a decision now. Normally we would have waited until July, first part of August, because it's still going to ebb and flow. Our numbers will still ebb and flow. But I feel we'll speak in more detail tonight about the whole process. But I feel very good about where we ultimately landed, but it was a lot of discussion. And, the principals will say, I mean, at our last meeting, we reminded ourselves and we said, why are we here again? And it's always in the best interest of our children. And we reminded ourselves that that's why this decision was being made the way that it was. So I thank you so much for that. Like I say, for all intents and purposes, the school committee is not even aware. And so we were out of sync with open houses. We even thought about not having the open houses, to be honest with you. And then we decided collectively to move ahead with the open houses, even though we knew the decision was coming this way and the school committee was after. So you'll hear, if you decide to stay, you'll hear kind of all that come through here shortly. But thank you for your comments. Very, very appreciative. I speak on behalf of the principals as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and Superintendent Clench, you just took up 4 minutes, but that's okay.
Put me on a timer.
Rule breakers, 4 minutes. My name is Eric Holmgren. I came for a couple of reasons. One, I sent all of you an email expressing some concerns about some of the changes in the kindergarten program. There were 3 primary concerns, and I had never met any of you, so I just came here to meet all of you. I think I work in state government. I work in a not dissimilar space as this, and I consider what you do public service. And I also understand that none of us as a community and a constituency can really understand all of the ins and outs that go into the decisions that need to be made. I voiced some strong disagreement with a couple of them, and we landed in a place that addressed at least 2 of those 3 points. It was fast. The announcement Monday, and there were changes. You know, I think it threw off a lot of parents at a stressful time. What I want to say that I appreciate as well is communication from the school, from Superintendent Clenchy. I don't know if I'm allowed to say your name, but
Yes.
I did it.
Yes, you're allowed to say your name.
You know, I think that as young parents and as young families in this community, we're beginning a long relationship. I have a younger daughter as well. It's a 12 or a 14-year relationship that we may be having. So I think that the transparency and clarity in that dialogue is essential. I think all of us as families are learning. I think everyone here is learning as well. So I too, I'm happy with where we landed at this point. I think there are certainly some challenges that we're faced, things that may be able to be done in a better way. And there's things that we can do as well. So I just want to come here and actually meet everyone and address that note too and share that.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming. We appreciate your comments. And we do appreciate folks reaching out to the school committee. And what we will do is make certain that you know that if it's an issue that we don't handle, we won't handle it, we're going to refer it back to the superintendent, and then she will disseminate it. And then assuming that that response will be coming to you in an expeditious type of a way.
Can I take
So-
1 minute? 1 minute. I thank you so much for the email, the tone of the email, the level, and I think I even said that in my first response back to you, the level of thoughtfulness that you had, very similar to the emails that you send to me too. I'm very respectful of the tone and the approach and the level of thought that has gone in behind that email, and so I just want to say that, so thank you for that.
And ultimately, we're all after the same things. And I
Yeah.
think that was made clear through the
Yes.
process, so we appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Really appreciate that. All right, and we juggled the agenda, and you will see this format going forward, folks. I moved the superintendent's report up right after the student report, so Isabel's going to speak to us, and then Superintendent Clenchy is, because, as I said before, I think one of the issues that I think we need to start letting the good stuff that's happening in this district be shown. I mean, I even think the school committee isn't aware of some of the really cool stuff that's going on. We need it too. So I think the community needs to see that. And then I've added a school committee chair updates agenda item, and you'll see this going forward on the agendas as well, because there's just so many like moving pieces, and I need to make sure you folks are aware of some of the things that are coming forward. So for right now, I'm going to turn it over to Isabel, our student representative.
Okay, so we have some exciting news from Nashoba. Starting off with athletics, all of our spring sports teams qualified for playoffs this season, so that's a big deal. Both lacrosse teams had not qualified in at least 4 years, so that was very exciting. Will Crookshank will be representing Nashoba. Am I allowed? I can say his name.
Yes, you
Yes.
just can't say nasty things.
Okay. Well, he's representing Nashoba at the New England Championship track meet this weekend. He placed second in the 100-meter hurdles last weekend to qualify for New England's. Both boys and girls lacrosse teams qualified, and boys tennis lost in the quarterfinals of the playoff game against a strong St. John's team. And softball lost in a heartbreaker on Saturday in front of a large crowd, 4-3 to Shepherd Hill, but it was a great game by both teams. Girls tennis played this afternoon, and I have yet to be updated of the scores. They aren't anywhere yet, so I don't know what the outcome of that was, but the baseball team played this afternoon at 4 p.m., and they beat Doherty 13-0, so that was very exciting.
Ouch.
And they will move on and play this Saturday. They are not sure of the time yet. From the music department is also another exciting end of the year with the Hale Middle School Jazz and 7th and 8th grade bands competing recently in the Music in the Parks Festival, where they won 1st and 2nd place respectively. Mary Rawlinson bands performed at the Great East Festival on Friday and earned a gold medal. Luther Burbank Middle School bands also performed at Music in the Parks Festival and received a gold medal. The high school chorus also went to the same festival and received a platinum medal. There are a lot of end-of-the-year concerts happening as well. Center School, Mary Rawlinson, and Florence Sawyer will all have their end-of-the-year concerts on this Thursday. Florence Sawyer had their middle school chorus concert last night, and their middle school band concert will be on June 10th. And lastly, Nashoba music programs performed at many Memorial Day celebrations, as well as Relay for Life events over the past 2 weeks, where they represented our towns and schools with honor and respectfulness for the events. From the middle school, a lot of other 8th grade trips to DC have either been returning or leaving. I know Hale's left on Monday, so all very exciting stuff. And senior awards were Monday night at the high school, and underclassmen awards will be next Tuesday, so a lot of end of the year excitement there. And finals begin next week with late starts for Thursday, Friday, and Monday, and then we have a half day as our last day on the 20th.
Your report was outstanding. Outstanding. The delivery was amazing. And I am so thankful that you added the middle schools. Yay! Thank you. We need to hear about all the schools, so thank you so much. I don't know whose decision that was, but it was a wonderful one. Does anybody have any questions for Isabel? Nope. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, Superintendent Clench, your report.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm going to kind of piggyback off what she was saying. We've had volunteer recognition times. We've had awards and events. The graduation is this Sunday. I mean, it is, if we were farmers, this is our harvest season right now. There's just so much going on. And I'm double and triple booked. You know, I want to go back to the music awards for half a minute. So I was at the music award function, the banquet on Sunday. And they had all these awards all lined up. And it was like a domino. If you touched one, you would have seen all these awards. It's just amazing what's happened. But I think what I found inspirational for both the Sunday and the other awards night at the high school, was that Monday night, I think it was, you know, was just the dynamic in the room of the people, the parents who were there to support the kids supporting each other. And honestly, and I said this to Chair Moscow, it gets no better than that. It gets no better than that. You know, the Sunday awards, there were 160 people in that room. It was just packed. But there was such a sense of family, and it just felt so good. And so hats off to everybody. The K programming and shifts and orientations, as I wanted to report out to you exactly what I just said earlier. We were a little bit out of sync, but I make no excuses. We made the right decision. I feel very good about where we've landed, and our principals will speak to that in a little bit. A couple of you, I think Chair Roscoe and Ms. Crossman, I think that we sat here with the Nashoba Regional program, the transition program review the other day. I'm very excited about the potential of value add to that program that I see coming. That'll be exciting to watch as that moves right along. Facility summer work, we're getting all of that lined up right now. The facilities department is creating a summer work list for the school district, and they're prioritizing what needs to be done first, making sure, for example, we've got to get an extra K classroom, for example, at Sean's school. So we were sitting here the other day brainstorming, and Joel was saying, well, listen, I've got an extra sand table or two, and Ross says, I've got a couple of extra desks because we've got an extra classroom we have to create. You know, so that's one of the facilities work. We need to get into that particular room and do some work first, so that's a priority. And the onboarding of new principals, both Principal Grady and Principal DiDomenico have been seen quite substantially, both in Stowe and at the high school. Actually, Principal DiDomenico and I sat together the other night at the awards night together. So you'll see both of those principals, our new principals, onboarding very nicely, looking for a smooth transition. So that's my report.
That's a good report. Okay, so school committee chair report. I've got a couple things I want to share with you, dates. I just want to mention, Superintendent mentioned the awards night at the high school. And for those of you who don't have kids in the schools, what this is there's so many scholarships that folks from the community, businesses and families sponsor for graduating seniors of the high school. Excuse me, and the kids have to apply for the awards, and there's criterion that they have to follow. And I was just so dumbfounded by it when you realize there were 100 scholarships given out, totaling $110,000 from folks in the community. So it was just a really, I think, you know, we get so down in the weeds on things, and there's like intense times that we're working really hard, and then you step back and you sit in one of those, or even what's going on at the 8th grade level, you know, with the little graduations that they're having, and we forget that there's such an incredible sense of community in these 3 towns. So when you have the opportunity, I'm gonna encourage you to push yourself out into the stuff that's going on in the schools, and we're gonna have to look at doing something a little more formally next year. Okay, June 11th is Sunday. Superintendent mentions DCU Center graduation. I think Kathy and I are going to that. On June 14th, which is next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, Bolton, the Houghton building, which you can see right across the street. That's the Tri-Town meeting. That's our last Tri-Town meeting, I think, until the next school year. But just so you don't get surprised, I've added, I think we are the only ones that have stuff on the agenda, so sorry, it's my fault we're holding it. But I want to introduce our 2 new school committee members to our...
I'll be in Texas.
You'll be in Texas. I promise I'll do you right. And I promise I'll do you right. So we won't be introducing them. Yes, we will, virtually. And the subcommittees, I'll share with them that we have identified the subcommittees. I'm also asking that we include the school district in the Tri-Town location rotation. So the Tri-Town meetings rotate amongst the 3 towns, and I think that we have 4 independent boards, and we've worked really hard over the past year or 2 to make sure that those connections with the select groups are strong. And I'm going to be asking them if they would consider adding the district into the rotation, so that they could come here as well. And then I am going to also be sharing with them the high school facility advisory committee that we are setting up, and I want them to understand what the purpose of that is. I'm not going to go into detail because I want that committee to kind of build its group, but we know that the point of that is really looking at an SOI for a feasibility study with the MSBA. And also to remind them that we do need representatives for the audit advisory committee, one from each town as we had this year. So those are the items for Tri-Town. Anyone who can come, please come. I will obviously be there. On June 21st, we have our annual school committee workshop, which is, and I'm going to ask you folks if you would consider, now that's a Wednesday, it's our regular Wednesday night meeting, if you would consider starting at 4 a.m. I'm not going to be here at 4 a.m. 4 p.m. If anyone has a major problem with it, let me know. But the reason I'm asking to start early with this, and it will be off-site, is because we've got some things to go through. Brooke, Superintendent Clenchey, Kathy, and Dorothy from MASC met today to start to lay out what the vision is for that day and the agenda and some of the major topics that we're going to be discussing. So we've got a lot to get through. We'll also be asking Dr. Hemmond to come in and give us a quick overview of OPEB. We are not going to discuss what we're doing with OPEB. It's to level set the entire committee so we all have the same information, so that then we can make a recommendation or a discussion, have a discussion and decision next year. And I think that's it. So if 4 o'clock is a deal breaker and we don't meet quorum, then I'll consider, we're going to have to go back to the 5 start. But if at all possible, if we could do the 4 o'clock, that would be ideal. Okay? Summer hiatus. So The school committee won't be meeting formally during July and August for the first time in 3 years. 3 years?
At least 2.
Yep. Generally, the school committee went on hiatus, and I think after the past 2 years of around the calendar, crazy, getting a lot done, it's time for us to step back. However, that doesn't mean that the subcommittees won't be meeting. So if the subcommittees have specific items that the school committee has directed them on, that's what you folks will be doing. And I know personnel will probably be meeting on the handbook to finalize. Okay, and you might be meeting too from policy.
And I believe the budget committee will desire us to meet a few times over the summer as well.
So yeah, and so I think we're going to have to, when we'll address at the workshop, what is it that we're all doing, right? So what are we doing, and what's the focus of the work? And then just a reminder, Alita sent something out to all of us on the MASC-MASS joint conference, November 1st through the 4th. This is our big professional development opportunity as school committee members. Please let Alita know as soon as you can so that we can get preferred pricing and try to save some money. And I haven't yet asked if we should double up on rooms, but I'm just putting it out there. So, and I'll move on. You don't have to stay with anyone. You have to stay with Jones. All right, I think that's it for the updates, but please do let Alita know. Okay. Now we're moving into our new business, and we have a Florence Sawyer School Spanish presentation. Maybe Mr. Bates wants to tee it up for us.
So,
Can you what?
Yeah, Alita will help you here.
Oh, you've already done it? Good. Okay. Well, my name is Mary Coppinger Frazier, but I'm more well known as Senora Frazier. And I am here in the spirit of reporting out great things that are happening in our schools. Clicker. All right. Which one do I click to make it go next? There you go. So tonight's presentation is I am talking about the collaboration that I have had for some years now with my 8th grade Spanish classes and a number of classes between kindergarten and 2nd grade. And throwing in at the end a little food for thought for all of you about the advantages of learning languages at an early age. So how did it all begin? Well, Miriam Dangona is a former teacher at Florence Sawyer. She retired 5, 6, I'm not sure how many years ago. But prior to teaching 1st and 2nd grade, she filled in, I think, for about a half a year as a Spanish teacher before I was there. And she and I started chatting and said, wouldn't it be great if we could collaborate? And we just said, yes, it would be, and let's do it. And we did it. And so now, moving forward, these are some of the teachers that I've worked with in the past. Joanne Gaynor retired a few years ago, and her classes and mine collaborated for many years. Stephanie Boyle, formerly she was in 2nd grade, but now she's teaching kindergarten. Carolyn Schmidt, sorry. And Roxy Gregan and Sandy Foster Smith. And notice I have the days there. That's because on those letter days, you know we're on A through F letter day schedule. On those days at 8:50, we go down to their classes and we teach them. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And when I say those letter days, it's really they're very flexible, and I have to be flexible as well. Many days they have something going on. Yesterday there was a field trip. We couldn't collaborate with the class that day. Some days I'm preparing my students for a big test, and I can't spare those. It's 10 minutes, doesn't sound like a lot, but it cuts into your class. So we're very flexible. I appreciate these teachers are very flexible with me, and vice versa. So here are some more of the teachers. These are 1st and 2nd grade teachers. All right, so what do we do in those 10 minutes? We do a lot of things. We sing lots of songs, we play games, and we read to them. So I'm going to share with you some of the songs that I want to go touch it. I'm used to doing that. Can we click on the color song? Does this work?
There you go.
Here it goes.
Green is verde, green is verde. Blue azul, blue azul. Black negro, black negro. Yellow amarillo, yellow amarillo. Purple es morado, purple es morado. Brown cafe, brown cafe.
Alright, so you get the gist of that. So obviously the things they're learning are things like, well, I shouldn't say obviously, they're learning colors, they're learning numbers, they're learning days of the week. So we'll skip that one. That one is actually my students learning the calendar song in September. Let's go to later on in the kindergarten class, learning the days of the week, or singing the days of the week with us. And Neil's not here. That's his daughter right there. That was.
Domingo, lunes, martes. Miércoles, jueves, viernes.
This is the kindergarten class.
Sábado. Hoy es martes. El 29 de marzo.
A lot of syllables there.
Que tengo un día.
If you're wondering why the hands are moving, this is our cloudy motion, okay? Está nublado. And, okay, before we click on, I'm watching the time, we'll go to that one, I guess we'll click on. Let me just say that there's there's a lot of wonderful things that happen here. I have 8th grade, actually I will show you a little bit of that one in a minute. I have 8th grade boys in this video doing a hand clapping game, being really goofy, willing to be goofy and have fun. And for me, it's just really heartwarming to see that, first of all. Having the opportunity for my students to teach the younger ones, it allows them to be that way, to be playful and learn the language in a playful, fun way. It allows me, as their teacher, to use books you'll see them reading that were actually donated by Bolton's donation committee, by the way, that are first readers, that are in English it would say things like, in the garden, there is a spider, next page, there is a flower, there is, and to expect an 8th grader to read that, it would be, most would say like, what is this? You're treating me like a baby, but I'm not, because they're now reading it to the younger children, and really, it's their level as well. So let's watch the boys having fun. It's awesome. And they're singing a song that says, and actually the song and clapping game that they made, they're singing.
So we're on your
So this clapping and song game that they're singing was made by a former student many years ago too. And what they're saying is, my name is Carlos, and then they say, his name is Carlos, my name is, and then at the end they say, we are friends. Okay, we'll hear it a little bit more.
Me llamo Carlos. Se llama Carlos. Se llama Ricardo. Me llamo Carolina. Se llama Camila. Se llama Eloy. Yo soy.
Now, when we went to do this in the kindergarten, actually the kindergarten class, Carolyn Schmidt said, you're going to do the clapping. We don't do it quite as intricately as that. So let's watch them with the kindergartners singing it.
Very fun.
All right, so how many more minutes do I have, Madam Chairman?
What do you need?
Well, I'm just wondering how many more minutes am I?
You're almost there.
I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will cut to the chase because I actually sent it all to all of you. So at your leisure, you can watch this again. So let's move to. Okay. to the next slide. As I said, we're reading. Now, we'll play this just briefly, but one of the great things, first of all, the Spanish language, the phonetics are very, very similar to the English language. However, we have letters like the letter J, which is pronounced like an H. So in this, we'll cut right to this one actually instead. In this one, I have students reading to, I think it was first graders. No, it was second graders. And they're actually reading and having the students repeat after them. So it's hay un pájaro so there's a bird in the garden. So hay un pájaro en el jardín. And then the little ones say, hay un pájaro en el jardín. And at the end, they actually, at the last page, they're reading the words on their own. And so they're second graders, and so they're pretty good readers at that point. But to be reading in a second language is very, very impressive, especially when we're not pronouncing this jardín, which many of my 8th grade students might do. You'll see the second grader does not do that.
Hay un pájaro en el jardín. Hay un pájaro en el jardín.
All right, so again, fast forward now after the reading of the book.
Excelente. Again, araña, conejo, mariposa. Right, how about these? Muy bien. Sí, tortuga.
And so other things that we do are we play games together. This is a little session of Duck Duck Goose, Pato Pato Ganso. We play puzzles. We have some activities on that we use with the computers as well. 8th graders now, of course, have one-to-one Chromebooks, so that makes that nice and easy. We teach them some cultural things. This is Day of the Dead altar for Martin Luther King. That's actually last year's. And then we made them for Dia de los Reyes, Three Kings Day, some presents, and delivered them in the Three Kings outfits. All right, so I think I'm going over, so I'll end it with, I won't go into the whole early learning language with you, but
I think yeah.
Okay, so I just will say to you that not only do I love this so much, but my students love this so much, and the little ones love it so much that just the other day I had a little boy, I was at my not at my desk, but at my computer, and I heard, Spanish lady. And I turned around and said, oh, hola. He said, we're in the library. I think you wanted me to haul some games into the library. So they absolutely love it. And so I will just share with you and with a couple of my students. One of them went down one day on her own. Sometimes it's just a few students I send down. Initially we go down all together, but eventually it's volunteers. On one particular day, Lauren went down by herself and came back. I said, how'd it go? And she said, unbelievable. She was just like, I can't believe it. I can't believe what these kids do. So I said, well, why don't I interview you and you can share that with the school committee. And so then in closing, I'll just leave you with Abby and Lauren talking about their experiences with teaching the younger ones.
So Lauren and Abby, thank you for coming to talk with me about your experiences with working with the younger children with Spanish. Can you share with me your thoughts and experiences about it?
Well, I've gone down to Mrs. Jones's class a couple times, and it really surprises me when I get down there because like we sing them the color song and everything, and they've actually gotten to the point where they can lead me in the color song. And I would have to expect to help them out a little bit, but they get it right away, and they're really good with it. It's really surprising for me. And I usually go down to Jones with her, but when I went down to Gregan, they were really eager to learn, and they had so many questions that it was really easy to teach them.
And how about helping you learn it all? Did you feel as though it helped you in any way?
Yeah, when I go down to Jones, they've been in Spanish for longer than we have, so sometimes they can teach me things that I didn't know.
Really? Like what? Can you think of anything?
Like sometimes if there's like an animal that I didn't know, they would know it. Yeah, they're really engaged with it. Like they get really excited when we come down, so it's always fun to go down to their room.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Susan Jones looped, so we actually worked with her class last year, and so she's right. I mean, animals are in the books, and so yeah, I could say a lot if anybody ever wants to talk about it with me, but it's a really beautiful collaboration that we've had. That it's just a win-win. It's one of the great things about working in a pre-K to 8 school. So.
Oh, you know, I was just going to ask you a question and you answered it for me. It's because it's pre-K 8.
It's easy.
Although
it's easy for me to, well, I shouldn't
Right.
say it's easy. It's not easy. There's a good amount of work involved with it, but you know, the fact that they're in the building with us, we walk downstairs, and that I can send my students down. I don't have to go with them all the time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to ask if you folks have questions, but really appreciate you bringing this forward. And I think one of the things that we've seen is each one of the schools has come to show us something unique and fun that they're doing. I'm assuming that the principals all share this because there may be a model that could be duplicated, but that's certainly on your list, not ours, but certainly appreciate that. And you're not going to get an argument from me on foreign language.
Yeah, so the next slides, you can see I've shared with you some articles about.
Thank you, Senora.
So,
You're very welcome.
so, Mr. Bates, the principal of the school, do you have anything you want to add?
I think, you know, having the opportunity for our oldest students to be able to demonstrate their learning, but also take a leadership role and to be those positive role models is one of the things that I cherish about Florence Sawyer School and the format that we have. And I'm grateful to Senora Frazier for continuing this practice. I think the kids get a lot out of it, both 8th graders and the younger students. And research is very compelling about the opportunity for learners as teachers to build on their learning. And so I'm just appreciative of their work and that collaborative effort.
I think there's something that just fills your soul every time you see children working together, and that's how I felt as I was watching the older kids with the young. There's just something really precious with that. So.
And I think just in terms of the district models that in the next week, right, at Mary Rowlandson, all of the kids clap the 5th graders out for the last time. It's one of those things where that sense of shared community that exists in all of our schools with our oldest and our youngest students, and I know that happens at Dr. Seuss's birthday as well in the schools, and kids reading together, and there's something special about that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Senora Frazier? And I speak fluent French, so that was pretty good on my own. And if not, thank you for obviously putting a lot of effort into building the presentation for us and sharing the students with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it tonight. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, the next one is Superintendent Clenchey's.
We are going to talk about classroom designations, and specifically tonight we're going to talk about K. And so I'm going to ask the elementary principals to come forward. While we're doing that, I had asked Principal Bates if he could just do a little bit of an update for us. I got something in the mail the other day it was an invitation to the State House from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And so I'm going to ask Principal Bates to just speak about that for half a minute.
Thank you. On Thursday, June 15th, the State House has its annual Education Awards where they will recognize the Massachusetts Teacher of the Year as well as finalists for History Teacher of the Year and the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science teaching. And I'm thrilled to announce to all of you that I will be accompanying Karen Walsh-Fortin, our math specialist, to the State House where she will be honored as a finalist for the 2016 Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science teaching.
That's
Very,
awesome.
very cool.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
Thank you.
Such wonderful news. Thanks for sharing that.
Please let us know. Let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It'll be
Absolutely.
awesome.
I'm sure I'll tweet it out.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So, Chair Moscow, if I could just kind of tee this up a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to our principals. I had said that we've had discussion all year long, certainly after January about, budget and then what's happening in our schools. We look at our numbers, we look at how we're staffing our programs, and like I said earlier, we always ask what's right for kids first, because that's what drives us. And so we've been having ongoing discussions, and then at one point in time, a couple of weeks back, we said, we need to really dig a little bit deeper into different alternatives for where we found ourselves with the K situation. Because the truth was, my concern at that time was Stowe, because the numbers were lower. And it's interesting, if you were to listen to social media, which again, I've said, and I'm going to say it again, social media doesn't drive us, and it doesn't really influence us, really, because we look and say, what's the best for our communities, and we have to be kind of that neutral party that doesn't get involved. And one of the concerns I had were the numbers. The numbers were lower than we had anticipated. And we didn't see any sign of that coming up, and yet I looked to the other communities and we thought, okay, these numbers they weren't to a tipping point for us, they weren't that high, but we said, you know what, can we look at this through a very different lens? So, and I'm going to have them speak to this in some detail, but we started to come together as a large group in this room. So it was the principals, it was all of our HR department, it was all of our business department, because we knew that we were going to ask for something, we needed the money. So we had to have somebody here who could figure it out for us. We needed to look at the HR components to this, and so the whole HR department was in here, which was really good. And then sometimes I was in and out of here, but I said to the principals, from my lens, I didn't want this to be a superintendent controlled situation. I felt this needed to be controlled by the schools. And so it was kind of like, when you come to your decision, let me know. I'll be happy to come in. And that's really where we started to go a couple of weeks ago. And then little by little, as we started fleshing out the details, I don't think we ever worked with a timeline of the open houses in place. We just worked to make the best decision that we could. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm not sure who wants to start this evening.
Sure.
Okay. I'll just jump in
Okay.
a little bit.
There you go.
Can you tell your principals?
Poor Ross.
In terms of timeline type things, when we started talking about budget, I don't know, when we came in and talked to you, I at that time I was mentioning concerns about numbers and class sizes, particularly in kindergarten, and so we've been talking weekly about our numbers, and even just the night of our open house for a new parent walked in and handed me a registration packet that night. Tick, another one, yeah. And there's a steady stream of that. So we've been communicating, almost weekly about what are your numbers, what does it look like, and then we were able to have a meeting just to say, let's look at the big picture. What's good for kids? How can we be proactive in things? And where have we come and where do we want to go? So,
I think going back to what Superintendent Clenchey had said earlier about not wanting to have to make a decision in July or August when our numbers, are not drastically changing, and we were stepping into June, and the numbers for center really hadn't changed since the January registration opening back in the winter for kindergarten for next year, and we hovered in that 60s range, and we continued to do that near the top end of it. So that was one of my concerns, was that if we have to bring in kids and we have to introduce families to teachers and we have to make all these plans, but then the plans change over the summer,
Because
what is
we
that?
have to reduce. Yeah.
Which we would have to reduce because the class size is looked at about 16, which is very low. And then, in combination of our constant ongoing conversations about class sizes, and even backing up from there with regards to understanding the model. When I came in last year as part of my entry plan, I certainly added questions about kindergarten and asking Sean and Joel and Cindy Maxfield as the early childhood coordinator about the model of this hybrid and how it works and the decisions, and looking back historically to understand it. So those were some of the things on my decision making end. When we made this decision to make a change, we, you know, it was a decision point that I'm glad we made now versus later. It did not fit well into the timeline for incoming kindergarten open house and process and things like that. However, I want to publicly give credit to my kindergarten team, and that is Maura Moran, Kim Priest, Linda Haas, and Charlie Manini, as well as our interventionist / counselor, Kim Twilliger, who stayed late Monday afternoon in, you know, past the end of school to revise class lists with this switch in model, going from 4 blended to 3 full day and 1 half day classrooms. So a lot of credit goes to them, but we were able to still have a very successful open house yesterday, and, you know, answering questions by email and phone calls over the last 24 to 48 hours has not been a problem at all. So it's just all about that communication, making sure parents understand what's happening.
So I'll back up a little bit for those who welcome, by the way, new school committee members. But the model that we've had in kindergarten traditionally, if you're not aware of it, over the last several years has been essentially a hybrid model of full-day classes superimposed with half-day classes in them. So students are in essentially a full-day section, but have had the option of going home at 12 noon. And you know, while that was a model that we looked at, we've looked at it over the years. New superintendent, new way of looking at things, charged us with, you know, how is the model serving our needs? And going back to Mr. Mulcair's point, that some things worked and some things didn't. But ultimately, we needed to look at what was best for our families in the Nashoba Regional School District. And you know, for a lot of reasons, parents want to continue to have a half-day offering for kindergarten, and a lot of valid reasons. And so we want to be responsive to that. Some of the feedback in terms of you know, this hybrid model is, you know, while there's a lot of benefits, it's also difficult for kids to have a sense of continuity and a sense of family and a classroom of their own. And so, you know, we had started talking about, you know, what would it look like if we were to look at it differently, and I think that, you know, having, and you know, and you can only do so many things in sequence, and there are a lot of dominoes that have to fall into place, and a lot of that happened in the last, you know, few weeks. And so I will take this opportunity to apologize to my kindergarten parents who came to our kindergarten visit day prior to us being able to announce this publicly, which is what we wanted to do, and just say that, you know, I wanted to talk about it, but we weren't ready yet. We didn't have all of our T's crossed, and so we wanted to make sure that we had the right model. And so what we've done as a result is, instead of full day classes with half day students in those classes leaving, we've pulled those half-day sections out to create in each of the 3 towns a half-day class of kindergarten and 3 full-day sections of kindergarten. So what that does is accomplish a lot of the concerns and the issues that the hybrid model ended up creating, but also provides that sense of continuity, a dedicated classroom, dedicated teacher. By the way, also takes care of any enrollment concerns. But you know, and provide students with the same kind of learning experience, but in that same community classroom environment. So we're excited about it. We're you know, and once we announced this to our parents, a couple of other things fell into place. So to Mr. Roberts' points, that we were able to you know, change some things that we wanted to do, but weren't sure we were going to have the resources to do, and you know, to still be responsible to the school district and what we could do with their resources. We're able to make those changes with some of the things that Mr. Mulcair was able to do at Center School. So we're excited about it. We think it's a great model, and ultimately, in the end, we think it's the best for our communities and for our kids.
So in short, there's parity across the district right now,
There is.
complete parity across the district. Now, it won't always be like that, but it's going to be like that this year, and we want to be careful that we're really only talking about the new school year coming on stream, because that's where our numbers are. That's how the numbers work right now. So for example, I think it's like 13, 19, 13 as I'm looking at you for your half day, for example. But we expect that those numbers are still going to shift. Those numbers will always be fluid until, and sometimes even after the first day of school, you know, as people move in and out, you know, and Sean got somebody new in, but Joel lost somebody. Like it's just, oh, thank you. Got 3 in after. It's just what happens. I mean, that's what happens across not just Massachusetts, but the country. I mean, this is just part of our lives in education. And I do think, again, to the credit of the whole team, and I said this to Chairman Moscow, and I think I said this to the 3 of you at one point in time too, that those last couple of meetings with everybody in this room as we were getting closer and closer to the model that we felt was the best, those were amazing meetings where everybody had something to offer around this table. This room was full. And everybody had something to kind of bring into it and to make it work. So I think we feel very confident and very comfortable in moving forward with this particular model. So it will truly be the 3 and a true 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. So we're not even going to share a teacher because we were worried about 117. But it's a reality in our lives as much as we can tease about it. I mean, how many times do we sit here, even in our meetings, and you hear the police going, or, you know, there's an accident, and we thought, oh, we can't imagine one class being without. And then it also got us away from the flipping, which you've done in the past that we were trying to avoid. So I think, you know, the flipping of the morning to the afternoon, which is something that we were trying to avoid if we could. So where we ultimately landed, even that's off the table now. And our times, and we haven't talked about times, but just a gentleman, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically 8:30 to 12 is what we are able to do because of the 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 as well. Now Cindy Maxwell's also here, so to support all of us back there because she helps to oversee. So I don't know, Cindy, if we're missing anything that you'd like to add, but if we've covered it all, then we've done a good job.
I think you've pretty much covered everything.
Okay, great.
It's pretty.
And Cindy's been working on a kind of, well, at first we were calling it an FAQ sheet, but I think then it turned into, well, it's not really an FAQ sheet. I think it was just kind of like a memo out to the community that we'll be posting. It really was, we were just out of sync with this particular meeting, to be honest with you. We really felt this meeting needed to happen to be able to inform our school committee. So I think that's it. That's where we're at.
So I have 2 questions. Well, a question and then some direction for the school committee. So how are the teachers receiving the change in the model?
Thrilled.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that center was going to be the most impacted. I mean, there's no doubt about that because we have 4 sections right now with 20, 21 students. They're full. They're full kindergarten classrooms. Today.
Right.
Yep, today. Going into next year, those numbers drastically decrease from, you know, we're at whatever 81, 82 students total right now, going down to 68, 67. I thought the number would go up from January. It didn't. So that's where we're at right now with center. So I think that the concern on the team end was, well, what's going to happen? How does that all work out? But the way things have developed, we're going to have 3 full-time teachers and 1 half-time teacher going into next school year. So everyone remains at center. The team stays intact. And for me, I think the skills, experience, and caring stays intact for that team.
I'm actually
for those kids coming in.
To myself because we hear from parents regularly, and there is a good number of parents who do not want their children in full day K, and I know that that's a topic for discussion, but frankly, you know, that's up to you as the professionals and the educators. And just on a personal note, like, I don't think it's my job to tell a parent that your student is ready or isn't ready. It's their decision to make as a parent. And that goes down another philosophical road. But what I do appreciate about what you've done is you're respecting the different needs of the students and the families. So thank you for that. And for those of us around the table, I just want to remind you that when you hear from folks in the community who have a concern, whether it's K or another issue, the discussion point is, yes, listen, hear what it is so you know what, if there's something you can do, fine. But for the most part, these types of discussions belong in the laps of the principals in those schools because that's their job. They have the knowledge base that we don't, and we shouldn't be answering some of those more nitty-gritty conversations. And it inevitably moves into an area of an individual child's needs, which we really shouldn't be discussing. So just remind you to share that with, respectfully understand the resident's need or the parent's need, because there may be something that we could do, but understand where the line of delineation is. So does anybody have any, Lynn?
It's not about kindergarten.
But this is the topic.
I know, but it came up.
Nope, this is the topic. What is it?
Well, I want to know how Karen Walsh was recognized. How does that happen?
Well, I don't.
Is that the parents nominate that person?
I believe it was.
Oh,
a
how is it
nomination.
determined?
Well,
Yeah,
how does that get to that point?
Yeah, so the DESE has a every year has an opportunity for anyone to nominate any teacher, administrators, parents, students, and so I think she was nominated, and then had to at least I don't know about the PAEMST Teacher of the Year. We've had a Teacher of the Year candidate. We've had a Teacher of the Year at Florence Sawyer School before. You have to go for an interview. You go before a committee. You fill out some paperwork. So the nomination letter gets you in the door, and then you provide a body of evidence to justify moving forward for the selection committee.
Okay.
All right. So, any questions? No? Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Just a comment, and for the administrators and the superintendent, is that I really appreciate the model of collaborative decision-making and thinking broadly. My understanding is that this is a model that has existed for a while with some...
3 or 4 years?
Yeah, but if somebody like me hears rumblings about people not being happy with it, it's whatever. But anyway, I like the fact that the principals are included in the decision-making. They're the experts, and they know what their schools need, and thank you for your communication to them.
I just want to add in one last thing, probably from the three of us collectively, that the next school year, and I think you kind of alluded to it, Superintendent Clenchey, is an evaluation of what we're doing next. I mean, this is not, it's not permanent, but we need to, now that we're through this piece, once we step into next year, we'll talk about how we're going to go about evaluating this decision and how it impacts kids next year.
And that made me love you more, because I'm all about assessment and evaluation, and you try something new, you assess the how well it's going. So thank you. And if that's part of the model, then we're in really good shape. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Cindy.
That, just to let folks know that if it's about an issue in the schools, to talk to the principal. Okay, the next agenda item has got several components to it.
Quinsigamond.
Oh, Quinsigamond. Quinsigamond Community College Partnership. Hi, Patty.
Yeah, we're good, thanks.
Okay. All right, I just want to give you an update and let you know that our partnership with Quinsigamond College, with the community college, is expanding. This coming year, we're going to be offering a 101 English composition class to approximately 21 seniors. And it's a wonderful opportunity because they not only earn high school credits, but they're going to be earning some college credit as well. And these college credits naturally transfer to Quinsig, but they also are part of the mass transfer system. So these credits are transferable to any of the state schools. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and we're targeting the kids that might be interested in a community program after high school, and the cost is minimal. Students are being asked to pay $100, and that's for the registration fee and the credits through Quinsigamond. And we have our high school teacher, Kristen Hera, is going to be is going to be the teacher for, the designated teacher for the class. And it looks like at this point, she's been approved, and so far, it looks like green lights for us. So we have a class already, a partnership with Quinsig. It's a financial accounting class. So we're interested in expanding the opportunities, and certainly it's a huge cost savings for families, but it's also a way of helping kids prepare for the next step. So I did put together a fact sheet for you that I won't go over because you have that information in front of you, but I did include the course description that Kristen Hera created, and she's using the syllabus from Quinsig. That's one of the requirements, and but she will be developing the course over the summer.
Terrific. What a great opportunity. Would you need to do more?
So Quincy would verify it?
Yes.
When she was finished with it?
Right.
So she's working
Everything
something?
goes through Quinsig. In fact, Kristen Hera needed to apply to become an adjunct professor. So she needed to submit her resume and her transcripts so that she is officially able to conduct the class. But what's wonderful is that it's a face-to-face opportunity for the kids and an opportunity to earn college credits.
Yeah, it is.
So what students are, it says you have 21 seniors, so they've already signed up for it?
Yes, and in order to qualify to take the class, they need to pass the Accuplacer. There's a placement test.
Mm-hmm.
So the Accuplacer has been set up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it any earlier than June 20th, which is our last day of school. But they'll be coming in to take the, and they'll be taking it right at the high school, which is nice.
So this is the community college placement program. Very nice. Can we
All
borrow
right. Any questions from others in the group? Nope. Thank you. That's awesome.
Thanks, Patty.
Keep doing more of that. We like that. Thank you,
Good
Pat.
stuff. Thank you.
I'm going to play with the agenda a little bit if you guys are okay with that. I'm going to ask that if Pat could come forward, because she's got, and I'm going to move the regular reports after this chunk for Pat, because it all is hers. So we've got a business office update. Pat's going to talk to us about year-end transfers, revolving funds report out, the year-end financial update, which is nice to have it before the start of the next school year, so thank you for that. A new copier contract, the district physician SY school year FY 17-18
Right, it does say
contract. It
That's
does say
right.
SY, which is
Yeah.
probably. And then we're going to move after Pat's here and goes through what she needs to go through. Then we'll have the regular reports recommendation. Yeah. Okay, so Pat, we're gonna turn it over to you, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know
Where did Alita put it?
I don't know where
And she just went off to.
It's okay. Do you, Lita can come and do it. I don't want to.
Yeah, you can go ahead and get started. And
So what do you want us to look at?
What I'd like you to look at first is the revolving fund balance update as of the end of March. There's a whole list of revolving funds that we have in the district, and their balances on 3/31. I know it's a little bit late, but we'll be coming up with some year-end balances pretty soon. So if anybody has any questions about that, I believe it was posted on the website, so you can give me any questions.
So you provided the explanation for the ones that were obviously looking like there was something going on.
Right. Yes,
So
I did.
appreciate that. Let me ask you before I ask for questions. Are you, if year end, we don't have a school committee meeting until September, so will you be making that available to us?
Probably for the first meeting.
Okay.
And I think a lot of these things, you know, the wrap-ups, I will present them at that point too, along with maybe the grants, because most of the grants will have ended by then.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to call our attention to in particular on this document?
Well, at this point in time, at the end of March, we're still in the process of posting revenues. So at this point, I don't see anything that is glaring. So, thank you. There are some deficits there, but again, full-day kindergarten, that's because there are still revenues that would come in for another couple of months. So that being said, that isn't a big issue. Graduation is another one of the accounts that the revenues hadn't been posted yet from graduation. So, you know, from sale of the graduation tickets or whatever. So.
And the school choice?
And school choice, that again is the same thing. We're waiting for revenues to be posted. The state's a little late, usually with keeping up. So, and I think that's it.
So the format of this, folks, are you good with this?
In terms of format, just giving us the balances.
Yeah.
That are
And
there.
what more do you?
Oh, it's, perhaps I need tutoring, I don't know. I'm still confused when I look at this and see large amounts of money in these accounts. And I understand it's March, so do I understand you to say that by the end of this month, the balances will be considerably less than what we're looking at there?
For some of these, and there are some accounts here too that are dormant. And one of the other things that I would like to discuss briefly tonight, and maybe at the end of when I present in September, we might want to take some of those funds in those dormant accounts and roll them into gift counts in the given schools and clean them up a little bit. So this list gets a little bit shorter, because some of them may be 5 years.
Sure.
Old, as far as dormancy.
So at some point, are we going to get that information about the disposition of the revamped, reconstituted revolving accounts?
Yes, you will be getting that.
Is that something that the budget would review first?
What?
Would the budget subcommittee deal with that first?
No, it would come to the school committee. Neil?
Is this third quarter, is this proposed to be in lieu of the revolving fund manual that we have? Or is this?
The manual, the big document.
The audit?
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to put that up on the website as well as a follow-up.
No, I just didn't know if this is.
Right, there's actually a breakdown of each one of these accounts and an explanation of what it actually is.
Oh, that's
so I'm
helpful.
going to put that up.
It started last year. It's got a 3-year, year-over-year, so that you can actually see the dormancy in accounts.
Right.
And so forth.
And you'll be able to
Gives
see every quarter.
And it gives a narrative as to what this account is, what the purpose of the account is.
And is that completed?
For the third quarter it is, yes.
Oh, all right, so.
So I will put that up.
It started last year.
I was under the impression that we were just going to put this up tonight.
Yeah, no,
Because
you
it's
are
easy
just
to
putting
read.
this up
Okay.
tonight, but
And
I
I
mean,
will
it's
follow up
helpful
with
for
that.
us to understand it in context.
Okay, and with this PowerPoint as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not where I was going with that. I just, when you were saying the format, I just want to make sure that I was understanding everything clear, so it's just clear.
I think to Kathy's point, you were looking for a little bit more explanation, which is what Neil, you just
Which is what it
answered.
has, yeah.
Right.
And
Right,
there were-
actually, that would give me that information.
There were a lot
Sure,
of
sure.
questions about, say, for example, right now, Hale user fees, $59,000. It seems like a lot. And what should that be? I don't need, I'm just throwing it out.
Right,
What should it
exactly.
be at the end of the year? And if there's too much money in there right now, where does it go? Have we been overcharging? So we've had these conversations
Right.
around the table before. but
And why are we
just,
sitting on that money when the schools could be using it?
Right, right. So those are just some of
Mhm.
the things.
Sure.
Okay, thank you,
Perfect.
Pat.
That's awesome, thank you.
Next, we're going to have our year-end projection, and here it is. And I'd like to speak to a couple of items. First of all, the negative balances. I look at the year-end first and can tell you that we're probably going to end the year with about $331,000.
Black or red?
Black.
Oh, okay.
But
No,
I
I'm
wanna-
waiting for
I
you to
wanna
say
discuss-
deficit.
No, I just want to discuss the deficits
Okay,
as they appear on here in red.
great.
In insurance, there's a deficit because we have some increased costs in some of our unemployment and in our Medicare, along with, we had some increased enrollment in our health insurance. So that was the
Thank you for
effect of
that.
that.
Not that I want the increase, but.
The next deficit on the list is $153,583. That's for long-term subs. And again, that's mostly for when somebody goes out, say on a maternity leave, and we have to pay somebody a daily rate until they return.
So can I ask a question? So this long-term sub thing is always kind of confusing. It's not confusing, that's not the word. It's irritating to me. Not that we don't need long-term subs, but I know there's probably no way to identify if you're gonna need them, how many you're gonna need. But what do we typically budget? Well, it's right there, Lorraine. I heard that. And typically, where are you? Does it wildly fluctuate?
It does fluctuate.
Yeah, depending on the year, depending on mat leaves, depending on all kind of.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
you really can't.
You really can't gauge.
You
Got
can't
it.
gauge that at all.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
The next deficit is $37,000, and that was that additional person that we added for ELL in the teaching and learning budget. We actually eliminated an aide, I believe. This was something that was done by Dr. Bates.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it's before my time, yeah.
Yeah, it was before, and that was the effect of that.
Oh, okay.
And for technology, we know that was the least payoff.
Ah, the
Plan
least
cut.
payoff.
Yeah, for technology, $300,000. And
Well, we don't have to do that again next year, right?
Right.
no. And then for Hale School, that would be because of the salary for the principal at the Hale School that we could have, and an obligation to pay, and also an interim.
Oh, so that's
Principal.
the interim principal for 6 months and
the former
the
principal.
principal because
And
the
the former,
previous allocation was only 10. Okay, got it.
So even with those deficits, we still had $331,000, and that's with projected expenditures till the end.
And so you're going to safeguard that?
Yes, I am.
Well, a little bit, because I think she's gonna.
Well, I do have one request.
She's got one request tonight that she's gonna put forward.
Oh, boy.
No,
Okay.
I think it's gonna be a surprise.
Can I ask about the projected expenditure that's in the red for athletics?
That's the offset to the athletic revolving accounts.
Oh, okay.
So what I do at year end, when all of the officials have come in and all of the transportation, I've actually done that already. Actually, I just did that this week. We offset the expenditures from the regular appropriation, the 100 fund, into each of the revolvings. So.
I like this format. This works. Does this work for you guys? Other than you.
Well, it's good to have the information. First of all.
Yeah, it's budget to actual,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's a great step forward.
Okay. Any questions? No one else? Okey doke.
Okay. So next I have my budget transfer requests, and a little small up in the screen. And basically, this document is based on the control accounts in our budget. There's a page in our budget that restricts how we can spend money, how we can transfer money. And at year end, I can transfer, with your permission, to between the control accounts. And that's what this particular document is. It's specific lines in the budget, what their budget amount is, the amount I want to add to that control account, and basically give you the year-to-date expenditures and encumbrances and the balance. And that's a snapshot in time. So this does not represent all of the entire budget. This is just the transferring lines.
As of
6/6.
So when you present these to us again, just for posting purposes, can you make sure that the date, the as of date is on it? That would be, so, because I don't want people to look at that and say, well, that was
Okay.
March 30th too,
Yeah.
or it's June 6th, June 60th. You know what I'm
We should
talking
add that
about.
right away.
I will add that.
And is this in the packet?
Yes.
Yes.
Budget
And I'll pull that down and put the date on it so it's accurate.
transfers here.
And so what I need from you on these transfers is a vote so that I can.
What do you want us to do?
I want you to accept.
Approve
these transfers
In the amount
in the
of,
amount of,
total amount.
well,
The total
zero,
amount.
because they offset each other, so it really isn't.
The net amount is 0, but it's between
Right.
various accounts.
But why would you have a remaining balance after the transfer?
Because the amount that I'm transferring in may actually be covering multiple accounts.
So for example, if you have teachers in Hale School, you have lots of teachers, maybe you have a surplus there, but it's a bunch of, or high school, you've got lots of departments, and so maybe you only need to transfer one line item, but all the other accounts have enough surplus to cover what's going on in there, or maybe enough,
Well,
something
just
like
use the
that.
first one.
Okay.
Medicare. All right, so the current budget is 465. You're going to increase it by 115.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to have a remaining balance of 75. So
Right, and that was at that snapshot in time that I talked about on 6/6, because there will be additional.
there'll still be activity between now and the end of the year.
So you need that at the end of the year.
Right,
Yes.
that's what we're doing, yeah.
All right, so you want to make a motion?
Sure. I move that the school committee approve the proposed budget transfers as described in the budget packet for the various line item control accounts to not have any deficits in the control accounts.
Second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? Neil?
Are we going to have something that will just track the actual transfers that were made at year end? Again, for that, the reconciliation process. So this, because we are basically zeroing them out, are we still going to have something that we look back on and say,
As a record?
yeah, we've got 3 years of this particular thing that keeps, and it helps you guys
For
your
budgeting
budget?
purposes going
Exactly.
forward, yeah. Yeah.
Trending?
Yeah. We had actually talked about that too, so yes, we think that that's really important that we do that too.
Okay.
I think
That's
we
it.
need that.
That's
So if
it.
we're
Yeah.
underfunding a particular account, we'd be able to
Yeah.
rectify
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
It just helps you with your knowledge,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, it gives us a perspective too, like for instance, I mean, I don't know how many people would know that long-term subline is just such a kind of fluid thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And you'll be able to see that, and actually what's wonderful about putting it that way is it will become obvious, so it will generate the questions, and then people have the information and you can put it to bed.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And so, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what's the really cool thing you wanted to tell us?
Well, I don't know if it's cool to you, but it's cool to us.
Oh,
It's something
no.
we just know that we need.
It's a geeky sort of cool.
Yeah, it's kind
Right?
of, well, I guess, to an accountant, or maybe. So, at year end, I know we don't normally do this, but we have an aging fleet. And if our surplus is higher, and I'm expecting it would be a little bit higher, if
It could be.
it could be. I would like to purchase a replacement vehicle for the electrician. He has high mileage on that van, and
It's just falling apart.
it's falling apart. And I mean, I had talked to you before about the plow truck, but we can get somebody to plow, contract that out. We can't have him driving around in his own vehicle with all the equipment.
Well, there's too much stuff, there's too much equipment.
much
I mean, he really literally works out of that van, so.
And I don't know, if you sat here and on any given day, you would see him up and down at least once a day. He goes back and forth all the place.
So how much is the annual maintenance on the vehicle right now?
It's probably a couple of $1,000s for that vehicle right now. It has a lot of miles on it. The doors don't close properly. I'm afraid equipment will be stolen. There's a lot of different things like that.
Happy.
Would it be bought outright, or would you lease it?
We would buy it outright.
And what's the projected cost?
Probably about $40,000.
And would that be, so do you have a sense of the type of vehicle that you want for him?
Yes.
Can you tell us?
Oh, it's a.
Yeah, because
There's nothing fancy. I've
If
gotta
this
tell
is
you,
just an
this is
FYI, because you're not looking for a vote.
Yeah.
No, I'm not looking for a vote on this.
Good. Sorry.
No, but we have to drop the nugget of thought there right
Yeah, you
now.
do.
And say, listen, like, we've got two really aging vehicles.
Right.
This one and the snowplow. And, you know, this one right now this one is rising to the top beyond the snowplow. But I'll
Right,
tell you that
only
snowplow's
because of the
in really
repairs
bad shape
it
too.
needs right now. And I'm hoping that maybe if we do get it, we would be able to trade in maybe two of them, because the other one's worse. The plumber's van is worse.
All right,
We
we're
have two
talking
of
about
them.
the
We have
vans.
two vans.
Now, I thought we didn't have a plumber anymore.
We don't.
Okay.
But that other
This is
vehicle
the
is in
electrician.
worse.
No, I know, but
condition.
then you'd have the van, the former plumber's van that the district owns.
Right,
To
so
trade in with
I
this
could
one.
trade two of them in to get one. I'm hoping I can do something a little creative with that as well.
Mhm.
So it's,
And would you buy new or
I would buy new.
previously owned?
New, white, not flashy. So that's what my plan would be.
Mm-hmm.
How does this work? So he gets the electrician's van. Now, is this something that stays in the district? And he
Yes.
trades out when he drives back and forth from home?
Right, he drives his own
So
vehicle.
it stays in the district?
Yeah.
So currently, how old is the vehicle?
I think that one is, I think it's about 6 years old, 6 or 7 years old.
And what's the mileage? You keep saying it's around
It's
that.
over 200,000 miles. It's time.
In the district.
Kind of like a police car, just gets worn out.
Yeah.
So,
So we're just dropping this nugget of thought for you tonight. Thank God.
so when, I mean, we don't know what the condition is, we don't know what the severity is, we just know that that's a teacher. So.
Would you like to go out and see it?
No, I'll take your word for it, but
You could drive it for a week.
there's like 40 grand I could do something with.
Well, I mean, we all, I mean, I know where I would like that 40
I know
grand
where
to
you
go
wanna
to,
put it.
You know that.
So when are you
know.
planning on coming forward to ask for a vote on this? Because it would be an off-cycle request, right?
Probably the last week of the school year.
Like,
In a week. That's why I'm asking for it now. 'Cause
But
I
you're not
know
looking
we
for them to
have
make
an
a decision
opportunity.
tonight, right?
no,
You're not
but
looking
we've
for the
got
decision.
one more
Yeah.
meeting, and I'm kind of like, Neil,
So a couple things. So if we're paying cash, and it's your decision on how you want to proceed forward, but if we're paying cash
And it's under 50,000.
and it's under 50,000, now I get all that with the whole, but like you're not financing it, so the object of not getting something that maybe has some used miles on it, you know, it comes down to financing. You're not going to get as good leasing terms, et cetera. But if you're paying something outright in cash and you can get something with very low miles, but
Well,
it's
that's
taking
an
the
option.
edge off, I hope you guys would pursue something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, and I don't even know, I'm kind of pulling this totally out of my hat, but if there's any energy credits or something that's given to more of a green-friendly van versus non, I don't know if that even exists out there, but, if there is and it becomes a win-win situation on that, that might be something to, and I'm just throwing that out there,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you guys do.
so it sounds like folks at the table, you need to, I feel like I don't have enough information. I also don't, I understand the need, I understand but I feel like it's like at the end of the year, I don't have any details, and then we're gonna go to the next meeting and then have to make a decision. So I need you guys to ask whatever questions you need, Lynn.
I'm just wondering, in evaluating how the district is run with the electrician, I know that they've changed how we operate over the past couple of years, but Is it cost effective to have an electrician doing all this and not have somebody from the outside doing it? Contract work? I
Yeah,
mean,
for the amount that he's out full tilt right now. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I don't think the man's got one free minute in his day, honestly, for the amount of work that he does in the district.
And, yeah, you mean it would be more cost effective
to have a contract electrician?
I don't think so at all.
No,
And
no,
you don't have somebody on speed dial who's gonna make you the priority too, right?
Right.
You gotta pay for that.
Right, and we do have an electrician that we can, if it's beyond what Jim can handle, you know, we have somebody, but it's expensive. Just like the plumber is expensive, and we've been able to keep things to a minimum. We were very lucky this year.
This year we were really lucky, yeah.
And
For the plumbing situation, yeah.
trying to do some preventive.
So I think you gotta get us some information before we would ever move towards getting comfortable.
I think it was really just about saying tonight, we've got this issue.
It's coming.
So can I just relate this, you brought up the snowplow. Are you considering contracting that out as opposed to buying?
Well, we
the
would
vehicle?
have to. I think that the critical need right now, after this van was just in for an evaluation, and I think this is probably more of a need than a snowplow. We can obviously, you know, have our contractor that we have doing our snow plowing pick up any small jobs that the existing piece of equipment that we have does. But
Is it more
we can't do
cost-
that more so with an electrician.
What's the other than the obvious, we might not be the priority, which we have to be the priority, but that would be built into a contract. What's the disadvantage of not plowing our own and contracting it out?
Well, we do contract out quite a bit of stuff this year. Like right now, we do. Like stove, for example, I think is pretty much all contracted out, if memory serves me right.
Right.
And some different contractors at Lancaster, but then we kind of tend to look after our own at the high school a little bit. And it's all kind of piecemeal.
Right.
It's another one of those onions that we've been pulling back and looking at. To be honest with you.
But I can tell you that the small plow truck that we have is used for cleanups. Like, we got a little bit more snow and it needs another pass. Well, we're not gonna have the contractor to come out and do another full pass on a smaller amount of snow. We can use that truck to do that.
And that's the one that you need to replace?
That one needs to be replaced as well.
All right. Well, if folks would like more information, funnel it through me, and I'll make sure we get it to.
And I think we need to look into it, extensively now. I think that's our next piece of our next part of the journey.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks. I thought you said you had something good.
That was good.
Cool was the word.
Transportation revolving update. This is something I need a vote for. I need to request that any excess regional transportation funding for fiscal year 17 be placed in the regional transportation revolving fund at year end. This would be similar to what we did at year end last year.
Give them an idea of the amount.
Yeah, please.
It's probably about 47,000, 40 to 50,000.
And that would be used for next year?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'm good with that. Anybody have any questions on that?
It's pretty straightforward. But it was down from last year.
Yes, it is down from last year.
So
Last year it was 216,000. This year it's a lot lower.
That's a different contract. That's a
No.
different bus contract.
No, this is
Probably
our revenue source.
Probably
Revenue source.
Yeah, this is the state revenue.
Here we go, right? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
So I move that any surplus revenue that comes from the state through the regional transportation funding process be placed in our regional transportation revolving fund so that it might be used in fiscal year 2018.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Steve, thank you. Any questions? Kathy?
No, I was going to.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Let's move it on. Thank you. All right, Pat, I think you have one more.
Last but not least, we've made
just got two more.
I have a decision on the copy machine contract. We've decided to stay with Canon, who is our existing vendor. We've chosen them because for one thing, we don't have to purchase any additional software. We're allowed, being the same vendor, they've been able to look at some of our machines and see if they've been underused, and we're able to use a machine that's been underutilized in the district and keep that on and still get 25 new machines so that we can keep up with our needs in the district. We made some changes to our finishers, and also the best part is that the new lease cost is less than the $130,000 that we have budgeted.
That's cool.
So
the other one wasn't cool.
Just a few $1,000s left, and it's a 4-year contract.
So let me ask the obvious. Where can the money that was budgeted that you're not going to have to use, where does that go?
I know where I'd like to see it go. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that,
Well,
because that's really on that line, that budget line.
It's not a lot of money. It's like $1,500 less per year for 4 years.
So
It's not over.
So do we still, with the contract, are we still being charged per copy?
Yes.
So,
but there are a couple of good things about this new contract. This new contract has, we get like 18,000 free clicks per
year?
Per month.
Okay.
Which is good.
Okay.
I mean, because that's, for most of them, it's like half of their monthly
So we
usage.
haven't met that.
No, well, it's different. It's different for all different machines all over the district. But you'd have to, I mean, there's a big analysis that we went through for this. And believe me, this is a good contract.
So just out of curiosity, do they average them out? Or if
Yes, they do.
one goes way over and one doesn't get used at all, they
And
get
one of the
charged way
things
over?
that I worked into this deal too was that instead of them looking at it monthly as 18,000, I asked that they group it into 3-month increments, so that we have 54,000
every 3 months.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
and so it works out much better, especially for the summertime, because still we wouldn't use it and it would be wasted.
Okay.
And Pat, you've been working on the research on and dealing with these, this whole process since?
The fall?
Yeah.
Was it October, November?
I was gonna say, I think it was November when we
The
when you
first
started
time-
it, yeah.
We looked at 3 different vendors, and this was the one that had the best deal for us as a district.
Okay.
So as far as supplies, as far as ink and paper, no, that's a different line item totally, that's totally different?
It's all included.
So the ink and the paper are included?
So these contracts are actually, this contract is actually better than the one we had before.
Okay.
And we're gonna have new equipment.
Awesome. All right, so you need a vote.
I would vote that you accept this contract. I don't have the written contract in front of me today, but this is.
Do we have to wait for that?
I move that we authorize the administration to lease these with Canon copiers for the school district
3-year contract?
for, is it a 4-year
It's
contract?
4-year.
For this 4-year contract.
Second.
Steve, questions? All those in favor? Unanimous, moving on.
Thank you.
You've got one more.
I have one more, and that would be the district physician contract. And
I didn't know you were doing that. Do you have it printed there?
Just the same.
It's the same doctor.
it's the same
just the
doctor.
renewal, yeah.
And his fee is $2,000, which I believe is the same as it's been year after year. And he will continue to do clinical consultation, policy consultations. He's our liaison, essential duties and responsibilities, and his name is Dr. Russell Coleman.
Do we use them?
Yes.
Yeah, we do for physicals.
So this is basically a retainer fee and then services are billed in addition? Is that
Pretty
what it
much,
is?
yeah. And honestly, Joan DeAngelis uses it pretty extensively.
So I need someone to move renewing Dr. Russell Coleman as the district physician for the FY 17-18 school year. And you got more.
And we need authorization for the superintendent to sign the contract.
So it's 2 votes.
No, you can just-
One.
Roll it as
You can
one.
just
All
roll
right,
into
so
one.
amend
One, okay.
to authorize the superintendent to sign. Contract. It's on the table.
I so move, or I second, as the
Thank
case
you.
may
You
be.
gotta move it. Thank you.
I move.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Kathy, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you again. All right, so you get to sign that. Lucky
Yep.
you.
I'm happy to sign it if you pass it down.
I don't think there's anything.
I think that's it
That
for
was
me.
an awful lot. Thank you.
Another year over.
Not yet.
Almost.
Okay, so it's kind of apropos that following on the heels of that, we talk about the regular reports recommendation. So, one of the things that
Where are you at?
we're right here because this shouldn't be under there. That's
Oh,
a separate item.
okay.
The Budget and Warrant Subcommittee met and provided recommendations for the reports. So I'm going to turn it over to Neil to kind of go through the highlights of this. We don't have to vote on this now, but I do want everyone to have an opportunity to ask questions.
Take it away? Okay. So first of all, you all probably know that this this is part of our goals for the year, and the rationale for doing this is, this past year and a half has been quite a challenge with just the entire fiscal situation. We've gone through the MASBO review, we've gone through the forensic audit, and the administration's been really kind with us this past year in allowing us to partner more than normally would happen. And we are very appreciative of that. It took a lot of faith to do that, frankly. But in moving forward, a lot of this now has been identified and or corrected. There's a corrective action plan in place, et cetera. So our charge was basically to collect the information from the forensic audit, from the MASBO review, in correlation with the corrective action plan, and put together what we should be doing to monitor moving forward. And what that effectively should be doing is taking us out of this sort of we're in your space, putting the friendly wall up between us where it should be there, and still allows us the opportunity to monitor and stay on top of what's going on. This is a little more intensive than maybe some other districts have. I would argue that part of that is because a lot of districts aren't necessarily pushing forward a lot of the best practices right now. But essentially there's 9 reports that we're recommending. We're recommending a quarterly report. There is detail that you can see in these reports. These are suggested items that would be in these particular reports, but quarterly is a no-brainer. That is something that should be coming forward. Part of that quarterly, the final would be the year-end report. So you can see that's kind of like a working hand in hand or dovetailing in with the quarterly would be the year-end. Year-end would contain a lot of quarterly elements, but it would have obviously where accounts ended up at the end of the year, whether they were overages, shortages, etc. The revolving account, which we actually went over, the update. Now, currently the administration is doing quarterly, which is fantastic, the little snapshot. And then a revolving account booklet, like we were just talking about, that might come out, like annually, kind of like the budget, kind of tell us where everything is. Student activities account report, again, we have that audited, But it's just kind of nice to know where all of that is going on a school basis.
So can we do something? Can we bring
Sure.
Pat back to the table?
Sure.
Just so we can, Pat. So Neil, before you go on, so which of the reports that Neil's already just mentioned do you currently provide?
Well, the quarterly,
Okay, so that's good to go.
All of them.
Yeah.
for the
that
revolving.
That I've talked about, yeah.
And the frequency with which you provide them.
Quarterly.
Well, the quarterly report is quarterly.
Right. I mean,
And obviously the year end
report
is
would be
annual.
once a year.
Right.
Revolving, what did you just say?
Quarterly.
Revolving is quarterly?
Yes, that's what we just got tonight, was
Yeah.
the snapshot. And then
Yeah.
that booklet, the revolving fund book, would be
Right.
like an annual thing that come out in around kind of sort of the budget time. And it gives that perspective, what the account's used for, the 3-year snapshot, et cetera. That currently is also being used, and I think you guys already pretty much have it.
It's
together,
finished, right.
yeah.
We just don't have it up on
And
the
that's been in effect since last year.
And so my question really is the detail, because I think in theory those first few that you mentioned are probably make sense, especially if you're already creating them. What I want to be really respectful of is the work that you've done with the administration and the school committee, but your time.
Right.
So that's why my question is the level of detail in these, and that really is an answer that you have to provide.
Yeah, and one of the concerns I have about some of this is just the level of detail. Like I said, we generate all these reports, but I think the other thing that the school committee has to decide is what of these go to the B&W committee, and what goes to full school committee. And I think that's one of the things.
I don't think that any of these should not go to full school committee. They absolutely should go to the full school committee.
So I think there has to be some discussion on some of this, and and some decisions need to be made. The quarterly reports she brings every quarter. We've tried to do that each quarter this year, and I think that the level of detail that she's presented to this table, I think, has been more than adequate. I think the format has been good. I want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for failure with some of this, because I worry about the level of detail that's being requested in some of this. So I'm just putting that on the table.
So
That's fair for the conversation. However, I would have to say at least 95% of what is listed right here is already being covered in the reports.
Absolutely.
So it's really a matter of how much more gets added to this that wouldn't be there. But for instance, quarterly report, if we take a look at that, we are listing payroll encumbrances, which we weren't before, but that was one of the forensic audit things that they said we need to. So payroll encumbrances, estimated costs need to complete the school year. We just had that actually with the snapshot that was just provided. Year-to-date budget transfers, again, we're getting that now. Debatable, do you need that quarterly or toward
Towards
like
the end of the year.
a year end for the control counts, right? And again, activities for general ledger tend to fall either into the warrant itself when you're reviewing the warrant, and or the year end when you're looking at the general ledger, whether you have overages, underages, and so forth.
So, but that right there, and really appreciate you doing this. You guys we all need to kind of really zone in on this, because this is a big deal. So the question is on the general ledger, because I see activities for general ledger, and I'm like, well, what are we asking for?
Nothing. So at the year end, when the general ledger comes out at the year end, we are taking a look at the raw, basically the raw line items.
Yep.
So if something was budgeted and it's off $5,000 or it's off $10,000, before the entire budget was zeroed out at the end. So we never saw what was happening. Administration, boom, it was gone, right? So it didn't become a teaching tool for budgeting in the future. So now what the plan is that right? With the ledger, when that gets done and you get down to the end, balances are off. They're not being zeroed out. And that was, again, at the forensic audit request, because that helps her budgeting for the future. Because if you look at like PD, I'm picking on PD, but if you pick out PD and you notice that you're, for the past, 2-3 years as you're building this up, we've been off 10,000. Well, we know we need a budget more or less based on what we're, so it helps really fine tune for the administration
So that's what you
that
mean.
idea. So that's what that is. And
I guess
I'm going to have Mark jump in on any comments that he might have to make too, on these things as we go down, because I'm sure Mark's going to have some input also on some of these things. But the idea of adding detail it's not the objective of overwhelming. It's quite the opposite. We want to pull back and not have 3-hour FinCom meetings once a week, and it's unsustainable. We all know that. We all knew that going into it.
Yeah, and I really respect the fact that you said that. So thank you, Neil, for that.
Right. So, but that being said, for us to stay out of like the administration's face, we also need to know what's going on. Not that there's a lack of trust or anything,
No.
but it's just the reporting, the accountability thing, which we are responsible for on the budget side. So that's all we're, literally, when you go through it, and I'm happy to go through each individual thing, you'll find that we're doing already most of those things in the reports that are in there. Some of the information that's in here can actually be combined into like one report. So special needs reporting beginning of the year, things like that, that can be bounced into, but you know where I'm going with
Yeah, I
that,
do.
because we're talking about, are we all of a sudden get hit with these huge out of district issues that are going to break, call in the circuit breaker and so forth. These are budget busters that it's really important, and we didn't necessarily have visibility before on that. And it's really important, I think, for budgetary planning, especially going into these, dwindling E&D levels and everything else, that we have a handle on what's going on, just to be in partnership with the administration. So something like that could be mixed into another report.
So I hear you, and I appreciate what you're saying and accept it. The question I have is, and I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to pull back, but in a way I am trying to pull back, because I need to know from the administration, is there anything in here that is going to generate additional layers of work, and then let us know where that is, because we need to know, we need to have the discussion, is this really what we need? Is it what we, and there's a difference between a want and a need, and we've wanted a lot and we've gotten a lot, but what is it that we need as a group that we've come to?
I can help Brooke along the way with the one thing. Disposition of surplus is one example. So disposition of surplus really needs to be fine-tuned as far as the policy goes. My personal view is it's really important that if we're getting rid of capital items that have value, that we understand. In particular, my pet issue has been the technology. The $4 million of technology that's come in and out of this district that we have no accountability for over the last 10 years. On the secondary market, there are precious metals, et cetera, that go in these computers, that things can be, we lost track of that. And so disposition of surplus can be designed, the policy, to deal with specific issues, whether it's specifically computers, whether it's specific, you can tailor the things to deal with that and not have it so that there's 19 rolls of toilet tissue that are going out the door, so we need to have the disposition of surplus for that.
So, Kathy.
So, how do other districts handle this? Because this is, in terms of being on this side of the table, even being on the other side of the table, something new that the school committee, something would be reported to the school committee. For example, classroom furniture. If they were buying new classroom furniture and getting rid of the existing classroom furniture, there would be item by item. Not every desk, but we have classrooms with the furniture, we did whatever to it, but that would be a report that came to the school committee. It would be an FYI, but I think that
It doesn't
year-end
now.
disposition of surplus, it just seems like we're asking, if this isn't something that we currently do, to put it in this format seems like another layer of responsibility, or the information's gotta be there anyway. You have to, there is state regulations that govern how you dispose of certain items that you, right?
To be honest with you, I've never come up against this before.
Okay.
Well, actually, you kind of do. But you kind of do.
So in terms of, to be honest with you, technology, I think is something that's just, I think it's the era that we're in right now, because if you think about it, I mean, we're not just now getting to the point where we've accumulated all of this stuff, and now what do we do for evergreening purposes and such? That's a little bit different. Generally, furniture and such, you hang on to it until it's so badly broken, there's no value to it, and so you just get rid of it.
Right.
You know, when we were talking about books the other day, that's something too that we need to deal with, and you had a couple of good suggestions that we're looking into. But for the most part, you kind of generally hang on to stuff until it's broken, and then you just quietly get rid of it. I've never seen, I'm not saying it's not a good idea to do for the technology component, but I will also say, I mean, I saw how hard that technology, worked last year to create that binder that they did of all the things. Now, that still worked well. I mean, we managed to deal with it appropriately. So I don't think I guess I'm saying I understand the technology piece more than I do about the other stuff.
Right. I just think it's, like you said.
I just need to get rid of it. If it's broken, we just need to get rid of it, not categorize it and,
Right, and I don't think we're suggesting anything other
It just
than that.
seems like the way it's stated there
No,
about
because
end of year disposition of
Well,
surplus.
that's what it seems like, because we had to write it, but there's no, and what I'm saying is, clearly, the policy for disposition of surplus needs to be redone, which we know that's in
Well, we've
that's
already
in policy.
reviewed Section D of the policy manual
Yeah.
with Dorothy. And
Okay,
there-
so the existing disposition of surplus that we had was not an acceptable one. That was a customized one that gave the authority to, I believe, the assistant superintendent at the time to be able to.
Principal has to, do you want to read it? No? Upon receipt of surplus property declarations, that gets reported to the business office, and the business office notifies district administrators that the equipment's declared surplus and invites anyone with the current district use for the property to claim it. If there are no internal claims, the property will be declared surplus and disposed of in accordance with business office procedures.
So this policy that goes.
That policy itself is different from the one that we
Yeah,
actually
this-
have
but
before.
I'm saying this is what-
I get that,
Yeah.
I get that, but that's my point. So the disposition of surplus that we had
Yeah.
before was there was one person who was both the check and the balance, which means there wasn't a check and balance that existed with that. And that's why we needed the policy changed. But there are certain items, and again, that's why I said, it's not toilet paper, it's not this and that, and we need to determine. So we haven't said this or this or this is what we need to be calling into account for disposition of surplus. But there are certain items that I think if we're investing in, that we need to know where it's going.
So, other than technology,
And it can be an FYI, but an FYI is still a report. Do you know what I mean? It's like an FYI, it's an update. We're letting you
but
know.
it sounds, I mean, I'm not trying to be a pain in the neck here, but it just sounds like, and I want to be careful here, how deep does it, how deep and how wide does this go? At what point does it stop? At what point do you say you have enough faith in the people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing in order to do what they need to do? And I get the technology piece. Personally, I think that has to happen. We need an inventory. We know we need that inventory. Consumables, obviously not, because they're consumables.
Right. Can I give a specific example? So technology, and I'm focused on technology personally myself. Technology is not a hard thing to provide a disposition of surplus at the end of the year, because Suu Kyi, for instance, has already put in place, barcoded,
Barcode.
so he knows what is taken out of
Right.
service.
Right.
So just like you get like a warrant
But
or
I don't think
whatever,
that's a
you can-
concern. I think, I
No,
don't
but
mean to
that's-
interrupt you.
But that's it. It's any items like that. That could be the only item. It could be any other items that.
Yeah, but that's where I'm going with deep and wide.
It depends on what the school committee decides. How deep and how wide is what I'm saying.
Well, we could get down to the granular level to decide what's in and what's out. I think we should respectfully say it's technology, and if you guys have some area that's really concerning, vehicles, that makes sense. That's a capital expense to me.
Yeah.
But other than that, desks and chairs. I'm thinking I'm going to give you the responsibility.
So you and I personally are in
Yeah.
agreement on this, and that's
So where's
not what
the
I'm.
disagreement around the table?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, I just think it's the way that it's written. It seems so.
It's not
So
written.
why
It's only
don't-
written as like a suggestion that we have some disposition.
So
of
why?
service.
You know what? Maybe this is the issue with it.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the crux of it, and maybe we can all get to a place of. Although no one else is talking, I'm going to drag you people out of your foxholes in a minute. What? Maybe what we need to do is say, these are the types of reports and the information we want. We would like you to come back to us, understanding what some of the needs are, and either share with us what you're going to give us, or give us an idea of what you can give us, and then go from there, instead of us pushing. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, but I think there's a communication thing that's gone on a little bit here too, because I think we were a little bit hesitant to be so specific, because sort of like and it could be just my interpretation,
Yeah.
but the mandate was that the school committee is actually going to make the decision on what to do. So we kind of came forward with, here's sort of like the areas that you need to be dealing in. The school committee now needs to decide, is that the area, and then how deep, how wide, et cetera.
Yeah, but see, I think what's the danger here, and I'm gonna ask Lynn, I'm gonna ask Susan, Mark, the two new folks, feel free to jump in. I know your perspective isn't as broad, but the question I have is, or the issue is, the rest of us have not been working in this, right? So we do not have, even if we've been on the school committee for a year, 2 years, 3 years, we do not have the perspective that the former finance subcommittee would have had.
Right.
So I'm not comfortable saying, yes, this is what, yep, absolutely. Because I don't know that I need all this, and that's where I need your involvement, and I need your involvement and your involvement, and you, and you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so can I make a recommendation on this? That we
Sure.
sit down with the administration and we actually go point by point through this, and we actually hash it out in B&W, and then come back with you guys with specifics.
I'm not good with that, and I'll tell you why. And
Then
I
where
want to
do
be
we
really,
fine tune it that you're recommending? I'm just asking. how we-
because again, I think if we have that discussion at that small committee level, you've got 5 other people sitting at the table who don't have an understanding of what it is, and the interpretation is being given to them, not a recommendation, and we need the interpretation. Does that make sense? Lynn, let it go.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Some of the stuff, technology makes sense.
Yeah.
Maintenance makes sense.
Yeah.
Because equipment has a lifespan and you need to know what it is, and we do not know what we have for equipment, so you need it. But as far as it's called FF&E. There is something for it. But the tables and everything, they're already talking amongst themselves and collaborating and sharing what they have with the sand tables and everything. So I would leave all that at that level, but we still need to know that it exists. But I wouldn't want to be part of it. So any of the moving around, any of the, having to go away, because when push comes to shove and they need equipment, they're going to come back to us and ask for money.
So see, I feel like we are so in the weeds right now.
No,
This just does not
I would
feel
hand
right.
it back to the administration. There are some capital purchases, and because we do not have a list of, we've been asking for an assessment of what we own in the district and how old it is and what its lifespan is, and we haven't been able to get it for years. So technology-wise, is that guy still coming in to do the
He
technology?
did, actually, we had
And that was
the
just
trial
Hale,
run
right?
at Hale. Yeah, we had trial run at Hale. We don't have the results back yet, but yeah. we
I don't
did
think
that.
anybody's arguing with the tech stuff, right? I
Right.
think, I think that's like a no-brainer.
Well,
Yeah.
that
You need to go back
vehicles
to-
would be another example. We ended up with vehicles like tossed around in various parts of the district because they never got rid of. And that's different from, I think, office furniture. It's not something that's done usual, probably every so many years. And it's just nice, like the van. We approved the van. It's nice to know if it didn't get traded in, what happened to it, right? And, yeah, and not to say that, you know, but I just want to make sure it's not a flower pot out in the back field somewhere, you know what I mean? And so it's only crazy items again, it's not how many toilet tissues, and it's not to micromanage the districts, but if there is major technology, right? So we're in agreement on technology. There's
Right, and we
millions
can't
of
go, we
dollars
can't
spent
go
there.
through every one of these.
But that's what I'm
like-
saying, and so I don't know, Mark, do you have any other perspective on what you'd be thinking of beyond technology at this point for something,
I
we're
think we
picking
can
on division.
Probably figure out some dollar threshold where we say if it's over X $1,000, then we'd like to know about it, whether that's $5,000 or $10,000 or one. I don't have an opinion right this moment, but I'm
Mhm.
sure other people that are running the schools do have an opinion, and I would be guided by that as one way to take a look
And
at
how,
that.
and you know, is this being done now? Obviously not. And so what does that mean as far as, you know, because the last thing I want to do is add a 0.5 FTE.
It's an awkward place for us to be in, to be honest with you. To be honest, I'm very comfortable to get it settled in some form or another.
Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah.
Because it's just this weird place because of the old policy, and we're sitting there and we've got people saying we've got stuff we've got to get rid of, this, you know, so,
Right.
yeah.
And we don't want to be in that situation again where we got
Right.
mounds of kibble that's all
That's
over the
exactly
place.
right, or the back 40 graveyard or
Right.
whatever, so you're right.
Yeah, I think that in looking over this again, some redundancy, what we're looking at with number 7, year-end disposition of surplus report. In number 5, you have facilities report and capital projects report. And
We haven't got to
that-
7 yet.
I beg your pardon?
We haven't got to item number 7.
You know what I think we should do? I
That's
think
what
we
we've
should
been
do.
talking
That's
about.
what we've been talking about.
Yeah, and there does seem to be, I get what you're getting at.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
I
lot
think
of
that number
overlap
7
between
could
5,
be
6,
assumed
and
there.
7.
And that's what I was talking about with the detail. With regard to technology, we have a technology plan that I think speaks more to instruction. It does include some hardware, but I think that within the technology plan, there should be a report about where we're at. I mean, and I don't remember the report, but usually there's a 5-year plan with acquisition of hardware, looking at technology infrastructure. So some of these things could be under that umbrella. The same thing with the revolving accounts. The student activities accounts are revolving accounts. And then the special ones, they could be part of that. Some of them are the, what do you call it, the cost recovery, like early childhood.
So how
Yeah.
is that, so I want to, don't
Yeah.
lose your train of thought. That number 8, how is that not part of the revolving accounts? Is it?
Well, there's the revolving account manual book that's out, and then there are things like extended day, kindergarten. It's more like the.
So we
But
have,
that wouldn't
so we
be
have some revolving
special.
accounts that are actually departments,
Right.
like the food services
Right.
Right.
and say preschool. So that's an active thing compared to say like admission gate fees for the athletic fields. So they're really qualitatively different things, and there's a real operation hiding behind that particular
Because they're cost
revolving
recovery
fund.
programs.
Right.
Well, not just
Yeah.
cost recovery, they're the, what we called last year quasi-business elements of the districts, right? And so the names changed on there to revolving account, which is exactly what they are. Accounting-wise, they're revolving accounts. We can call them something else if it makes sense, do you know what I mean? But it's again, something that we already get. We get the update on the
You know
pre-K, we get the update on the kindergarten, we get
You
the.
know,
But that's also where I go to, like, I mean, so let's just talk about that for half a minute, like the food services, for example, that's something, and I know Chairman Roscoe, you said, that needs to come to the full school committee. You know, so.
All of these reports need to come to the full school committee.
Right, and I absolutely understand that. So I think that, you know, we want to really think this through. I really encourage that we not rush this component and that we take our time with it.
So let me ask you a question. How, you know, and I want to hear what everybody says. These are the, maybe this is what we do. These are the items that you are looking for, the topics, the general reports.
Right.
Why don't we?
Those are just suggested elements within on the.
So that's where I'm going. So why don't we, if the rest of you, let's just stay at the high level, the bolded words, right? Don't go into the detail.
Right.
And let's push that detail away. And are these bolded reports that we believe we need? And if the answer is yes, is there anything that's not there that we believe we need? If the answer is no, then I would say if these bolded reports, as long as that information, if the administration wants to repackage them so that special needs is in the quarterly report.
Right.
So that whatever that looks like I would just ask and let me know if this, why am I stumbling over my, because I haven't eaten all day. Okay, just saying, Alina. You always feed me. Can we allow the administration to take the reports and come back to us and say, this is what we think works for us, and then we can react to that. Because this feels like we're dictating. They see what you want, and within the context of what they currently do, there may be elements that we need to add, but it's all in the interpretation. So I'm just thinking I don't want to over-engineer. Elise.
What I would be curious about is, and I know Neil, you called out some of these things, are there specific things in this list that were recommended by
Yes.
the audit that are not currently in
Being
reports
done.
that being done? Like those, because those to me would be the like non-negotiable. You
Right,
know, if
so-
we're not doing them, but it's been told that we should,
Although,
or have to.
but you know, although to your point, because it may be, because John had a lot of things he wanted us to do, so to your point, it may be, is it doable this year? Or, I don't know the answer to that.
Right, and maybe we don't do it right away, but
And
it
it's
is something that
prioritized.
it's like, this is really high
Right.
priority that we need to address sooner rather than later, and some of these other things are like, that'd be nice to
Right.
know.
So
How much toilet paper
so what do you
there
got
is.
on that one? That's a
So
good
to answer
question.
that, what we do is use the corrective action plan. There's a three-phase corrective action plan that is in existence right now. And we literally went through that in FinCom at the time, and made a list of the recommendations. This is based on the recommendations from a combination of MASBO and forensic audit, which is in the correct, like we literally used the corrective action plan itself to put this together. Now the corrective action plan, to the administration's credit, a ton of it has already been done. So it's now become, it hasn't been, to answer your question, it hasn't been done in the past, but it's being done now. For instance, encumbrances, for salary encumbrances, that is being done now. So, like I said, to go back, 95% of what, and there is redundancy, that's what I was trying to say. There is redundancies in there. We're kind of going through brainstorming. Here's some of the details that we want to see. This is the report, the bullet that you see there, right? That's the report that we want to see. Some of them can be combined, and here are some of the details that we think should probably be in it. There might be redundancy that can be captured in another, like in coalesced together. But again, this is all based on the forensic audit and addresses it. And 95% of what we're suggesting here is being done right now.
So to your point, and then we're gonna have to wrap this up and maybe move this to the goal setting workshop.
Yep.
Might make sense. You're aware of what's in the MASBO report, and you're aware of what's in the forensic audit. So again, I think if that's the case, because at least you bring up a good point, and that's something that Neil said repeatedly, I would look to you to say, this was what the reports recommended for best practice, and then do it. And then come forward. Again, let us see what your interpretation of that is and start from there.
Okay, I'm very comfortable with that.
I'm perfectly happy, personally, I'm perfectly happy with going that route and having the administration taking a look at what we're
Take the lead.
suggesting and then saying, here's what we'll provide.
Right.
There may be things when we take a look at it, that's a baseline, and we say, well, we'd like to have a little bit more detail here and there, but I think you're providing most of what we'd be looking for to begin with. So all I'm saying is I think there's a lot of swirl and like
On what?
we're all on the same page, but we're
I don't
swirling.
think that we're not. I think that the thing I'm concerned about is that I've got all of us sitting here, and a couple of you folks are really, really well versed at what all of this is, and then there's lots of us, some of us who are pretty good idea, and then some of us who just don't know.
Right.
And so I think in order to really make some decisions, I think we need to see it, and we need to understand from Pat and from Superintendent Quincy, what was it that we were supposed to be doing that was recommended? We spent the money, we might as well do what they told us to do, and then go from there. But I kind of feel like at this point, this feels like I want to see what you guys come back with.
Okay.
And then we can move forward. Because I think what you're saying is these are your recommendations and the details underneath it.
Based on the corrective action plan that the administration put together, which was based on the forensic audit.
Right. So let's see what it looks like. Does that work?
Yeah.
Does that work for others?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Because
think our
we've belabored
challenge
this.
is that we've never had regularity on most of these topics.
Absolutely.
So we're initiating a conversation that has never had, and so we have not had a culture of regularity in this topic. So I think
Absolutely.
this is the
So
challenge that we're
we're
walking into.
Yet again, innovation mode, right? Yet again, putting structure in place.
Yes, and I think the additional challenge is, to your point, there's a couple people that have been wading shoulder deep in this stuff for a while.
Right.
So I get that. But then, you guys got to come up to speed then to make that decision.
Or, and this is
And I don't mean that.
philosophical.
I don't mean that flippantly.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No,
because if
no
you're
harm.
saying we know and we can't make the decision, then the answer
But
is you need to
philosophically,
bring
it
yourself
could
up.
be, you guys need to get the heck out of the weeds, too. So, let's see where it goes. Let's see what they come up with. Let's see what, based on the recommendations are. But whatever you come up with, it needs to be presented to the full school committee.
Yep, I hear that.
And then I think the school committee needs to ask themselves, with the information that you have, are you able to do what you're supposed to be doing as a school committee? And if the answer is yes, then fantastic.
Right,
But
so.
we're going to have some huge budgetary challenges and so forth, and we just need to make sure that the report outs are going to align with what we're going to be seeing.
So
down
let's
the
see
line.
where we land. Let's
Yep.
see where we land.
You want to see that this year or the beginning of this year?
I don't know. I would have to, I don't want to, well,
This is such a crazy season for us right now.
okay, so we're
It's,
going to sit for a minute then.
I'm just afraid to make a
We've got
promise.
one more
that-
meeting before the end of the school year. If I had to call a school committee meeting in the summer, we could.
Can I just offer perspective?
Please.
We're not in, I think, emergency mode
No,
for anything.
we're not.
We got the end of the year, we
Mhm.
know there's a surplus. This is something that, as Mark mentioned, we didn't get these reports before. We're trying to, sort of make decisions about what we want. Let's just exhale. We put that on the list of things to do this summer. Let's not rush.
Right.
Because, we're heading into new territory now, and it's good. We're in a
And what
good,
you
going in a good direction.
And to your point, what Pat shows, although I'd like to be a little sexier looking, but beyond that, and there's maybe a little bit more I'd like for it too, but beyond that, I'm good. I feel like, I think I know where things are right now. For the rest of you, I don't know how you,
So I this again is not flipping, but I'm just saying if I'm trying to word this without sounding like a
well then why don't you hold that thought so
no,
we can
because
move
it's
on.
important. Because it's important to say. Because I think if what you're saying is basically what I'm hearing is then you don't know what you don't know if you haven't been versed on what's been going on. So it may look on the surface like this is great, but if you...
I think you need to,
Do you see what I'm saying?
Let's
It's
pull that
really
down.
hard thing to say
Because I would
without-
look at it something completely different, but respectfully, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
so
yeah.
let's do that. So I get it. I think the next steps are for you folks
Yeah.
to go off and show us what the heck it looks like, and then when we reconvene.
And Kathy, I really respect what you brought to the conversation. Thank you.
Been
Right.
Can I just say
Great
one-
job.
really,
Yes,
really
ma'am.
quick? Okay. I just want to say that I really very much appreciate all the work that I saw finance do
Absolutely.
last year, and I'm sure that you did to get us to a point where I think now we can rebuild the trust, and
Mhm.
I think we're in danger of not being able to give
The
into that
administration.
completely. Yeah.
Right.
But you know, I can't even imagine what you guys had to go through. So I can imagine it's hard for you to release a little bit of that. But I, as a new, no, I'm
I
saying
want
like
to
like
release.
that you.
I don't want to
Yeah,
do...
I don't want to get back into it, but I just wanted to say,
Yes.
after my first year witnessing what you went through,
Yeah.
yes, that
Right.
I appreciate all of that, and
Right.
I think it might be time to trust that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so,
Thank you, Neil.
so it's all good.
I know it's all good.
All right, moving on. Assabet Valley Collaborative vote to add Auburn. Superintendent Quincy, can you move us through this?
I can move you through this super quickly. So,
Thank you, Kat.
So we belong to the Assabet Valley Collaborative, and to the new members, are you aware of the collaboratives or how collaboratives work? So, or if you don't, I can go into some detail. If you do, then I'll just move along. Just move along? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Bottom line is, we belong to a collaborative that has a whole series of other school districts that we all come together, we offer PD together, we help support each other, particularly in the areas of special education, transportation, all this kind of thing. We have a new member who wants to come on board, and that's of the Auburn Public Schools. And the only way they're allowed to join our club is if the other members let them come in. So what every school district that belongs to the Assabet Valley Collaborative has to do is take a vote in order to allow Auburn Public Schools to come in, and we need to take this vote before the 23rd of this month. So it's very simple. No, I don't have language, but basically it's just the notion, the agreement. Let me just read the agreement here to just quickly. The agreement replaces the original agreement as most recently amended on March 3rd, 2015, entered into and by the school committee is listed in this section here in the member districts, and I think there's 32 of them. I won't read all of them, and will be effective upon the approval of the member districts and the Massachusetts Board of Elementary and Secondary Education is indicated on the signatory page. So the only difference here is that the list is the list, except it's got Auburn Public Schools in it. That's the only change.
So you are looking for us to approve the addition of the Auburn Public Schools to the Assabet Valley Collaborative.
That's right, Assabet Valley Collaborative. That's correct.
Well, I was just wondering, how does this affect us? I know that they're looking to either expand or move, right? Aren't they building or something?
No, that happened earlier at the beginning of this year actually, and they moved into a building over on Lord Street in Marlborough. Right where MESPA is, I'm sure you know where MESPA is. Susan, you probably do as well. And so they moved into that particular building, right into that suite. And so this really doesn't affect that at all.
But does it affect our budget at all?
No, not at all.
Are they gonna-
Yeah, let's go in.
So
No, I mean, you're asking our budget with our school district?
Yes, but we contribute to, I mean, we're
Yes.
responsible for so when they expand, when they add teachers, I mean, we're paying for that. So how does that?
students,
Directly.
they don't add teachers.
They
in.
charge us tuition for our services.
Right.
So it's fee for service kind of.
That's exactly
exchange.
right.
So do the fees decrease at all, including them, or do they increase at all by including them?
Think of it like the vocational schools. If you have 100 more students, fees are not going to change that much at Minuteman. It's equivalent. If a new town joins Minuteman, it's going to be pretty similar.
I think it's just going to be an ebb and flow type thing. And
Yeah.
in all honesty, we use them more some years than we do others, to be honest with you. So I certainly wouldn't want to tell you that there's a consistency here for our own district for Nashoba Regional. So that wouldn't be something to consider for making this decision.
So probably this is a charter amendment, and you're asking us to approve an amendment to the charter as a member of the Assabet Valley.
They haven't
thing,
called
right?
it a charter, to be honest with you. It's not calling it. It's just making. It's just an agreement, is what it's calling it.
So I move that our school committee approve the change in the Assabet Valley agreement to add Auburn as a new member to the Assabet Valley Collaborative, and authorize our superintendent or chair as appropriate to sign the agreement or otherwise
I believe
communicate
it's our
that.
chair actually that has to sign.
Great, another. Thank you, Mark. Does anybody want to second that? Second. Any questions? No? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Great.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the so the Emergency Response Task Force. I'm gonna let you explain really briefly what that is. It is an advisory role for the school committee. And I think, Neil, were you on it last year? Jennifer.
I was originally on it, and then Jennifer took that over. Yeah.
And so we need to assign someone, but let me have.
Sure, it is an advisory group that they've done great work. And last year was a really good year for them, and actually when we sat down with doing budget this year, we took a lot of their recommendations into account. So it's an active group. We have members from each of the communities on it in terms of fire, police. I mean, it's quite a fairly large group. Each of our schools, there are administrators on it, and so they look to have one member on it from our school committee as a liaison. And so that's the open position right now, and Jennifer served on it last year. They don't meet a lot, so it's not like it's a mammoth undertaking for you at all.
It's not even monthly.
No, it's not. It's kind of when they've got more projects queued up, they tend to have more meetings. But to be honest with you, they're in a really good place right now. They've done a yeoman's level of work in the last year, so I think this year will not be nearly the amount of time that it was last year.
So in order to, does anybody have a desire to serve on this, or everyone's going to hide? Quick, look down.
So would you say there are about, 20-ish people who?
I would say it's about 20-ish that sit on it and come in and out. But our fire and police departments are particularly active voices in it.
So if not, Steve, would you?
I'll do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate that. However, we do need to vote to add this as an advisory, right?
Whose committee is it? Is it the superintendent's committee, or is it the school committee's committee?
It's the superintendent.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. It's your committee, right?
Yeah, but no.
They
because
who do they advise? Do they advise the superintendent
technology.
or the school committee?
I'm just sitting here thinking they actually advise both. I mean, they come in and do a debrief with me every single time, and they come in here.
It's not going to hurt to take a vote. So
yeah, I would take the vote. Just to be safe.
please, someone make a motion to add this committee so we can move this along. Or it's an advisory role. So what I need someone to do is to make a motion, and you can move this, to approve the addition of the Emergency Response Task Force School Health Advisory Council as an advisory role on the school committee.
I move that we add the Emergency Response Task Force / School Health Advisory Council as an advisory to the school committee and assign a school committee member to it.
Second.
Thank you. Oh, any more questions, please say no. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Stephen, put your hand up. Thank you very much. Okay, Kathy, you waited long time. School committee handbook.
Okay. So,
it's the end of the school year.
We have been working on the handbook for several months, and the personnel subcommittee, and we have looked at school committee handbooks / manuals from a number of communities, and there are some things that they all share in common, and there are some things that are particular to them. And so we took some things that we thought were pertinent to us, that people need to know because they're based on state regulations regarding school committees, and we organized them into the document that you see before you. So it was sent out to folks. I have been hearing from people since it went out and have gotten some feedback and have been able to answer questions and incorporate some of the suggestions that folks have made. Alita, thank you very much, has responded at the 11th hour to add the little things that were added. Recently, the thing that I need to add now is that new advisory committee to it, and I'm happy to do that. So I'm looking for people's feedback. This is the first time you're seeing the whole thing. One thing that it is missing that I have to work on updating is making sure that anything in it that relates to our school policies or to state regulations have those citations. So
you don't need anything from us on
I need
this?
people to read it. I need people to give me some feedback, and they can do that, via email. If people feel there are things that are missing, but at some point, probably at the beginning of the new school year, we will be voting on adopting it. And the other thing, it'll have an adoption date on the front cover, but it'll be one of the tasks of the personnel subcommittee to review it every year and update it every year. For that reason, although you can provide people with paper copies, I would like to see it reside in electronic form. In the appendix, there are some documents that are useful to us, like our bylaws, the meeting calendars, and the school calendars. It'd be good to have an organizational chart. I didn't see it online, but if I could get a hard, I don't know where you are.
Sure, Alita can get that to you.
Okay. So anything else you would like, resources for the appendix? So I guess the task is for folks to read it and give feedback. Hello?
Hi, so I get three brief things. Do we have to worry about OML concerns with emailing you feedback on this? Or do we discuss this
No, you
in
respond.
school committee?
It's just, you're just giving me something. I'm not
Okay.
going to
Just don't
respond and
respond, just
say.
don't respond all.
Just, right.
Yes.
Okay, cool. But
That's one.
if everybody's responding, then,
No, as long
It
as
can't be a groupie.
Direct to
Yeah.
Kathy.
direct to Kathy, you're good.
okay. And so I was just wondering if there would be an addition in here for the subcommittee responsibilities for like the
It's in
chair.
there.
It's in there?
Oh, not for electing chairs or
No,
something?
no, like the role of the subcommittee chair and so forth. Like I see it for school committee,
Yep,
the
yep.
chair, but there is a difference between,
Yep.
as far as like agenda setting,
Okay.
notifications, things like that.
Yep.
Like if we could, just as like to standardize that
I
for
think
the.
that's a good idea.
And then the other thing that I saw in there was the formation of minutes.
Yep.
Like so that all the minutes are actually synchronized between all so every subcommittee is all in a line with the whatever framework that they're going to use for the minutes, so that they're all
So you want the
look
minutes to
separate.
look similar, to have a
Yes.
similar format?
Yes.
I would,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
do,
like it
and
doesn't have to
as someone who
use
writes
your
minutes, I
own font
just-
or whatever you want, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it should have the pertinent information.
why don't we use the format that we use for school committee meetings? I think it's so simple.
So you mean for
That's
guidelines?
fine, but I'm just like standardization
Guidelines for
between-
writing minutes?
Right.
Right, yeah.
That's all I got.
Just
Yeah.
take notes.
That's good stuff.
And then the only other thing was the facility. School committee for
Oh, yeah.
facility, I think we have to have the whole,
It says elect a
We have
school
to have-
committee representative as facility committee chair.
but we have to have the whole, like the, half of that committee is made up of residents. And I
Right.
think we need to have the whole committee put together and then they would elect a chair based on the entire makeup of the committee, so in theory.
It wouldn't necessarily
you-
be a school committee
In
member.
theory, it may not even be
Now I
a
get
school
it.
committee member.
Yeah.
Because everybody's a voting member of that and they decide.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Now I
Okay.
get it. Thank you.
So Kathy, you want people to get feedback to you by, don't say September, because then they'll never do it, because I know me.
I know you too. Why don't we say by the next meeting, the 21st?
No.
No?
Why don't we say by June 30th, since you were going to be working with me to build that whole June 21st.
Well, yeah, we're not gonna, just if they give it to me by then, it doesn't mean
All
we're
right.
gonna talk about it.
Whatever you want.
If people need more time, if I say June 30th, does that help?
That's good.
The good news is, I mean, we the first one we looked at was Framingham's, and it had like 40 pages. And this, I think we got it down to,
That's paternalistic, you will do.
yeah,
you will do.
19, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so
we're
any
good, June
feedback we
30th.
have by June 30th, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll
I
send
will
out
say as a brand new
reminders.
person, I found this very helpful.
Yes.
Well, that was
Yay,
the
that was the
goal.
intent.
Yay.
Yay.
I mean, I don't know what I don't know yet, but, you know.
No, we
This
still
all
don't know
was
what we
very
don't
clear.
know. You
Yeah.
look at, Jones is always giving us the 411 on. It's a lot.
All right,
Okay.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cal. Subcommittee reports. So before we do, how's everybody doing on their minutes? Are we good? Are we caught up?
We're doing okay, right?
Okay. Budget and warrant.
Yep.
You got an update?
I thought I pretty much updated you with the whole thing that we just went through.
Anything coming up?
I can rehash that we're happily
I didn't mean to.
We're happily moving forward and turning over a new leaf this upcoming year.
Good.
We want to cut all our loose ends and ties. And yeah, we just basically covered a couple of the things that we talked about here. It was just like informational. And we're going to be planning in the next meeting what we're going to be doing as far as times, days. I imagine a somewhat dramatic scale back from where we've been. No 3-hour, once a week meetings at this point.
Well, that was a forensic audit function.
So, yeah, so that's pretty much.
That's good, because I know that not just for the budget subcommittee, but for all the subcommittees, I think you've mentioned it before, you're in crunch time.
Yeah, we are right now.
So let's be respectful of the administration's time. Thank you, Neil. Personnel. What do you got?
We met on May 31st. We reviewed the superintendent's evaluation, and we'll be coming to the school committee on the 21st with the superintendent's evaluation, which we will do publicly, and a recommendation for FY18 salary.
Policy.
We met with Dorothy today, finished section J, and we'll hopefully be meeting again with her in August to, I don't know, E maybe? I don't know.
Do you want us to review anything?
No, because there's still a, no, thank you.
Keeping your hands off my policies.
So the only reason I ask is because I would love to see us get on a schedule, like, every whatever, we're gonna get.
Well, in the fall, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes,
There
yeah,
won't
in
be
fall,
anything
obviously.
ready. Yeah, yes, yes.
Are we ahead of schedule?
Well, because we started mid-year, she said it's a 3-year contract, but we have her as long as we need her. You just pay for those 3 years. So if it goes beyond that, but I tried to kind of argue her halfway through the manual today, and she pointed out that there are more sections left, but the number of policies in the remaining sections, so we're about halfway.
But we've only looked at one little section.
You have. Well, I sent out the A and the
Well, how are you
sorry.
gonna get that stuff done?
Because, well...
No,
I'm trying
don't you want us to
explain.
look at it?
No, yeah, I thought I sent A, B, C, and D to you. Yes. Yeah, for you to kind of start to look at, but we can't look at it for approval in form until all of those. So for instance, Donna Lindstrom is looking at a couple, like is looking at an A policy now.
Yeah.
She's also looking at a J policy, right? There's the B policies that I know you have some feedback for us, right, on those.
Yeah.
No, D, sorry, the D policies.
Probably both.
Yep, no, the D. And then there are a couple of J policies Neil doesn't know that he needs to, just because they were recently approved last year by the school committee, and I thought it seemed, based on Dorothy's recommendation, that they may be brushed aside, but I know that there was some passionate discussion around some policies.
You're so feeling my pain right now.
So in each of the reason you got C last time was that had been resolved. I mean, everything had been.
How about, can you do this? Can you do like a, who's your scribe?
Well, now
it's me
now
as
it's-
of today.
Yeah.
Guess what? I have an idea.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think
Let
about
me write
this.
it down. I can't wait to hear it.
Okay, ready? Here it comes. Can you put together a grid with what the section is and what this where it is in the process?
That's a tracker.
Yeah, don't go crazy. Don't like create a forensic audit report for us, but but just what the section is, where you are. It's in first review. You're doing blah blah blah, blah whatever, and then at the last column could be, are there outlier policies that we just need to be aware of so that we know that when we get a section, it's either not going to be complete for good reason, or we know that Neil's going to want to add in his finance, his budget, and blah, 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 he's going to want to add a couple. I think that would help, because then we would kind of know.
Sure. So why don't I build that?
I can get
And
Can we vote on that?
I mean, I can build it out based on the meeting I was in today, and then flip it to you, make like a little.
And I think that will help us figure out where everything stands without. All right, and you had a question.
Oh, yeah. So when this is all done, our policies are going to be on this server
by mass.
at NASC, and we can just go there and look them up.
And they'll be updated if there's changes to MGL that apply.
And will that be at the end of the 3 years, or when you finish?
When we approve it all together.
Okay.
At the very end of, I thought we would approve C in form last week, but
Yep.
there was the addition to the one policy about the superintendent having, and I did get some guidance from Georgia about that, about, if there's changes to the rules. So once they're all approved in form, and then the whole entire thing is adopted.
Okay, so right now they're just on the district website for us. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, and thank you for offering to do that,
Yeah.
Miss Scribe, lady person.
You're welcome.
Any,
Voluntold.
what was that?
I said I was voluntold.
Okay, CPAC, do you have anything?
No.
No meetings yet?
No, the last meeting was April 6th, and I did reach out to Isabel, and we've chatted over email, but she said at this time there's no meeting scheduled,
Yeah,
probably
until the
until
new
next
year.
year.
Oh, she's great, that's good. You'll like working with her.
So we've made email friends, but nothing to report yet.
That's all you
She's
can do for
wonderful.
now, that's great. We don't have anything on tech or audit. But we will, do we have anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to sitting and observing without any impact or participation at the
That would be a
table.
slam against
I'm just
me.
reading what my role is.
That's okay, Neil. You're gonna get so used to it. It's gonna feel good. It's gonna feel good. Correspondence, anything in particular? Okay. Consent agenda. I know everybody read the minutes, right? And reviewed the warrants. Make sure you sign them. Any issues with the warrants from the finance?
I haven't seen them actually.
Well, that's a problem. Kathy, did you look at the warrants?
Yes, I did.
And are you good with them?
Yep.
And Neil, did you look at the warrants?
Yep,
And you're good with them?
as good as I can do.
If you have questions?
Nope.
Okay.
We're just spending money.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
And items for next agenda, we're not gonna have regular school committee items for the next meeting because we have about 7 hours to cram into 4.
Not necessarily.
Could we
I can't get.
talk post Tri-Town about the facility advisory committee briefly, that meeting, in case we need to do anything since we're going away for the whole summer as a committee?
Could we?
Could we put the facility advisory committee on the agenda to talk briefly about it, so that we know what, so we all know what the process is to get people on board and appointed?
Well, let me tell you, you know what, let's talk about it for right now. We can do this. So I think you saw the email that I sent out that that the superintendent is going to be contacting the MSBA and getting the ad into the paper. And I think the challenge is right now, it really should come from the administration. So that ad will be created, that ad will go in the papers, then the administration will gather up all of the applications and make the decision, so that the school committee is not making that decision about its peers as residents, which makes sense. And then from that point, we're going to be looking to the MSBA to give us some input and guidance on how. So we will get you something, but I still think, and I know like time's going, not to put any more pressure on you, but I'm putting a little bit of pressure on you. I really want to get this going before people are gone for the summer, just because we need to get this group together and
So are
Jill.
you directing her to get that ad out in a certain amount of time?
No, I'm not, because I know that Brooke and I are going to be having a conversation with MSBA in the next week to 2 weeks. So it's good. We've already talked about it. So it's good.
Okay.
So we'll figure something out. We got goals session, so, you know.
Right, so we'll have a more visible process post strike
Right.
down.
Yeah, I think technically, we have to do it that way because we can't take any votes because we're not a quorum as a commit, so it's this chicken and egg thing. So we kind of have to have the administration handle those two items to get us forward. Because we can't vote on approving this or that to put the.
Exactly. So we're good there. And unless somebody's got something burning that they really want to stay for it, I just want to acknowledge the fact that, ironically, we're completing this meeting 5 hours ahead of schedule. 5 minutes.
5 hours, yeah.
But it feels like it's been 5 hours, Abby. So thank you all, but I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
Oh, thanks, Mark. All those in favor?
Susan did. Susan did.
Susan was
Susan
all
got
over
it. Susan got it in. All those in favor? Steve, would you like to vote? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.